That's great. That's great.
Wow. Hey, I am ready to rock whenever you are, man. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm ready to rock as well.
Cool. Well, we're pretty laid back here. I don't have some huge intro and introduction. I imagine most people who will tune into this will already know who you are. But if people don't know, I am beyond excited. I'm going to try not to fanboy out because this is a guy who's been a fixture in my life for a long time. His name's Deron Miller. He is the face of too many bands to list, but you probably know.
True.
And at this point, we'll put a whole bunch of logos on here, so you're probably familiar with his work.
Too many bands is the operative. There are too many bands, but the more the better, right?
I got questions for you, a couple that pertain to some previous bands, the current bands, and then we have like a lightning round hour with questions from the internet. So that should be kind of fun.
That sounds like fun. I've never done that before, really. I don't think.
Cool.
That's
well,
interesting.
Before we get into anything, I have to ask, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. But when we stopped talking last night, I tuned into your Instagram Live. And one of the first things that you mentioned, which we should let people know that you do a lot of Instagram Lives and Facebook Lives. So if people don't follow you, they should follow you because you do all kinds of interactive stuff with fans. But
as much as I can, yeah. I always have. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're all good, man. I'm jacked up on coffee and beyond excited, so I'm going to try to do my best just to chill. But as a performer, you said something that totally sparked something with me. And the name of the show is Tell Me Something Great. And you can take that in a lot of different ways. But you mentioned that for the past couple weeks, maybe even months, I think it was, that you've been in this like rut as far as listening to music and playing music. And as I mentioned, I mean, dude, you've got like 25 music videos under your belt, like 10 plus CDs. You've done everything, you know what I mean? And a lot of people would think that you wouldn't get in that mindset. But from the performer, I totally understood what you were saying, and I was curious, like, how does someone as seasoned as you wrap your head around that and still find creative niches to still pull it out of you this far into your career, you know?
Well, it's all I really know how to do. You know, I mean, I know how to do other things, but this is something that nags at me more than any kind of writer's block or anything like that. You know, I have a history of depression. It comes on at no warning. It usually has no trigger. And when it happens, you know, I take advice that my mom, funny enough, my mother, says it's not going to last forever. And it doesn't. It doesn't last forever. Everybody, I hope, who experiences this snaps out of it pretty quick. And when people tell you to snap out of it, that's really frustrating because they obviously don't understand it. So, you know, and I take medication. I have for as long as I can remember, but sometimes it doesn't work according to the way it should. So when you get a little off balance, it hits hard, and then you're kind of left to just try to get the days over with is the best way I can explain it. Yesterday I thought, wow, I wish I was in a coma for 3 months, you know, and it's hard. I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of people, especially in arts. Anybody that has a career in art knows that it's not steady whatsoever. It's not steady. It's not guaranteed. It's you got a lot of people that count on you, and I'm used to that. I realized that when I am creative, I try to satisfy myself first, but I also know that I have a lot of people waiting for that too, because it does a lot for them too. According to them, you know, I've been getting since I was 19 years old, you know, messages that say, music saves my life, and what you've done has been very important. And I don't take that as pressure, you know, to be as good as I was or as good as I could be, or I just go with it, you know. So it bothers me to be in this place right now, but I know that it's not. Today wasn't too bad. I was able to get up and go and run some errands and stuff like that. But when it's at its worst, it's I can't even call someone back. You know, can't text back. Can't eat. Just wake up every half hour. You know, can't get off the couch. Missing out on stuff that other people are doing that you would usually enjoy doing. The typical symptoms that everybody that deals with this has, you know, not wanting to shower, stuff like that. So,
Yeah, just being in that hole, so to say.
So I don't remember what the original question was. I just tried to cover as much of that. But what keeps me going is that it's what I do the best. So I don't really have a choice, and I don't want a choice. I want the choice to be that I'm always going to be doing this despite the musical climate, the market, the demand, anything like that, any kind of financial situation, you know. So, you know, I'm just glad that I didn't aspire to be a rock star or a star in anywhere, any way, anywhere, because I don't admire those people. And the people that I grew up admiring were broke. So, plus now when you see people like that, they are miserable. So I guess I was kind of right about that. But yeah, this is what I like to do. This is my life. Music is my life. And when you can't do it to your satisfaction, you just wait.
You definitely answered the question and brought up some really good points. I'm a person who actually has the clinical diagnosis of extreme depression, and I would say that, you know, I've gone to the summer camp of Camp Kill Yourself for a very long time. It's definitely something that resonates with me, so I can understand that from the listener's point of view, but also from the creative side too. That depression, you know, one day at a time is definitely a heavy thing, and it does make a lot of sense. But that ebb and flow is something I'm very, very familiar with. So when you were mentioning just the lines of like, I don't even want to look at my guitar, or I'll play my guitar
Yeah.
and just everything sounds like crap. I listen to music
Yeah.
and even a song I like, it just sounds like crap. It's not your day, and it just
Right.
hits you, and you just have to wait until it clicks. But then when it clicks, you know, your fingers are moving in the right places, magic's moving, and you're, you know, ready to go. And I can empathize greatly with that.
Yeah, it's a lack of inspiration, like you said. It's clinical depression, and that word is used so loosely in society. Like, oh, I'm so depressed, I broke a nail. You know, I'm so depressed,
Yeah.
my girlfriend stood me up. You know, clinical depression is like a chemical thing. It's as real as breaking a bone. A lot of people scoff at that because anybody that's lucky enough to not experience or have to experience that is lucky, you know. But it's not something to scoff at, and it's not an attention grabber. It's not something that anybody wants to take advantage of that experiences this bipolarity. I have, you know, I'm that, you know. Um, it's just all there, you know, and it comes and goes. So I don't, you know.
You're absolutely right, though, because people do get a sense of it, and maybe they can sympathize, maybe not completely empathize, but when they have situational depression or seasonal depression, these things come and go with, no pun intended, but more of a sporadic, I don't know, it just comes sporadically, opposed to
Yeah.
somebody with a clinical deficiency where there's literally a chemical deficiency happening, which that doesn't go away. And as you said, you know, you've been medicated for a long time. I myself do as well and have gone through that journey. And yeah, it still just doesn't help because the wires that are there aren't moving like other people.
Some are unplugged,
Yeah.
some are double plugged,
Mm-hmm.
some don't exist for the moment. So
But that's a testament to the music that you make, because when you don't feel it, like you said, you don't want to shower, you don't want to get out of bed, but when you do feel it and you have that lightning in a bottle ready. I mean, your ability to channel what you're trying to do, as you said, has resonated with people for a long time. So as long as you can keep riding the train, you know you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? That's been solidified year after year. So that's badass. And that's definitely a level of success that you don't have to be on the cover of Rolling Stone to be able to appreciate that. You know what I mean?
No, never appealed to me. And I'm glad, because a lot of people that I've grown up around, like my friends that have been definitely partial to seeking out that kind of, social status, of being famous and recognized and, rich. And it's just really empty thing. It's a goal that doesn't, once you get there, I've seen people just have nowhere else to go. And then once you're up there, it's just a downward thing. So you get less and less. People still know who you are, but they wish that they didn't, because it's another time. It's a new time, and I could give examples of people that once had something cool going that now it's just like people snicker and laugh if they walk into a Walmart. They're still famous. Everybody knows who they are, but they have nowhere to go creatively because people are not going to take them seriously. So I've always want to be that blue collar performer that makes it through, benefits other people that enjoy it. And I don't go out there saying, I want this song on the radio. I want this to be. I'm so used to not having that in a situation where it was possible that there's just so many games that you have to play to be one of those people, and celebrities used to be entertaining. So it was hard to not want to be a celebrity, back when I was in my early 20s and stuff like that. It was hard.
It's much different now, though.
Yeah.
Much different.
They're all generic, They don't say anything because they're so afraid to say something to offend people.
Yeah, they're like a caricature of themselves, and then they try to maintain that. Or like you said, they have this decline, and then that's a whole other bag of problems that'll come with it. That's kind of odd. I've had some other people in and out of the music industry come on the show before, and you're pretty modest, man, because overseeing what you do, like some of these other guests I've had, what you get from that mindset is huge, because I've seen you, let's just say, performing, okay? Like, I've seen you perform for a ridiculous amount of people to playing pub shows. And your mindset isn't skewed or sidetracked by, like, obviously you like the benefits of one or the other, but you also see the benefits of one and the other, and you're not turning your nose up at these things. Or like you said, being open to fans and stuff like that, while other people believe they don't have time for it, or it's not important, or this, that, or the other. So, that level of, is it humility? I'm not sure what it is, but at least you're down to earth and real about that, because you can't say that about everyone who gets attention in the music industry, let alone a lot of other industries,
Right, and I can't even take credit for being able to say that that's never happened to me. I mean, there are times when, even when you're doing something that you love, it becomes Christmas every day. And when you're not feeling well, and there's people that want to meet you, and you have every once in a while you don't want to be around, or you snap a little bit, they don't see you as the person that they thought you were when they meet you.
You're the guy from the music video. That's who you are. You're not a human. You're just that dude from the music video,
Right. And I try to not get myself in situations where I'm going to be working so hard too long. And I think it's always the amount of time that even when you're ready to set up to do a 6-month tour, well, that sounds amazing, and it is amazing. It's like nobody gets to do that, but once you're in the middle of that, it's no longer the exciting, enjoyable thing. You forget that, and this goes for a lot of people, and I'm trying to not make excuses for them, but I know how they could be if a lot of people, that do this, they aren't always in the mood to do this thing that they love the way they want to do it. It's different every day. Once you get, but to not appreciate your fans like the first day or any other time when, you know, that I don't understand that at all. Because you have to be able to understand that you're not going to be at the top all the time. Not to say that that's the reason why you should appreciate your fans, because they're the ones that make you who you are. And especially these days, something that can be said in this kind of cancel culture thing that's going on goes viral, and then all of a sudden you start to lose everybody anyway. So that's why I'm saying celebrities are so boring, because they're afraid of cancel culture. I always say what I want, and people agree or not agree, but I try not to get political, and if I do get political, then I try to look at both sides, or three sides or four sides or whatever it is. But you know, I've never been interested in that political stuff. I've never voted. I'm not proud of that, but it doesn't bother me. If some presidential candidate wins by one vote, then you can blame me. But yeah, I get it. You know, everybody should vote, but it's kind of like driving 100 miles to drop a penny in a fountain.
It feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It just, and then they don't really give you any choice. I just don't believe in that stuff. So I focus mainly on what I'm good at and what I want to do.
Well, I think that's a testament to how much you put out, because you're constantly working and putting on stuff. But you know, you're at least being real about this and being honest with yourself and with fans. And a little bit of my background: I worked in radio for 7 years, and I've been in bands and done band management and stuff over the years. And one of the biggest things that I take away from all of this is that honesty is a big component, and it's something that people not only resonate with, but it's something that other people don't embody. And it's really strange, especially when you start to deconstruct a lot of people's lyrical content. It starts to become even stranger. But that whole mentality of, like, you know, my shit doesn't stink, I'm on a different level kind of something, is just absolutely ridiculous. So trust me, I hear that tenfold. Trust me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've toured with a lot of bands that have had that my shit don't stink mentality, even ones that were just starting out. They got their huge record deal and thought that they were already successful. It doesn't work like that. It didn't work like that.
No matter where they're at in the spectrum, when you have that mentality, it's just sad. When you're coming out and you have that mentality, it's just a level of being completely naive. And when you're bigger and you have that entitled like mentality, you're just a pretentious asshole at that point in time.
Yeah.
You know? I heard in a podcast recently that you started playing guitar at around 8 or 9 years old, and had me wanting to ask the question of what made you pick up the guitar.
An Ace Frehley poster I saw when I was 2 years old.
Was that like your dad's, your brother's, like what?
My cousin Freddie's, my dad's sister's son. My Aunt Maureen had my cousin Freddie. He was about 6 or 7 years older than me, and they took me upstairs to his room with my brother and my other cousin, to watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, a really annoying Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked behind me and saw that poster of Ace Frehley with his guitar, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. I didn't even know it was musically related. I just knew that I wanted to know more about that. And then he ended up taking out the records, playing them, and that was it. There was always something playing in my house. I remember even before that, my parents used to play this song, Leader of the Pack.
Familiar.
And they prefaced it by telling me at such a very young age. It might have been after Kiss. It might have been. I know it was before I moved to New Jersey, so it was definitely, maybe I was 3. They used to play this song, and they prefaced it by saying, this poor guy got in a motorcycle accident, and the song is about that accident, and it just tore me apart. I was so sad. And they used to play it, and they thought that me crying about it was adorable. But it was actually very traumatizing. You know, for them, it was like the 70s, and, you know, at least he has feelings, you know, he has a conscience. But I was always about, no, you're not going to do that shit to me, you know. And I've always been about retribution in some kind of way. So I found the record, and I remember it had that Motown. The Motown records used to have that Motown label of Detroit or of Michigan, and it had all the road maps for all the towns in Detroit. So I took the record off of the record player while they were in the kitchen, and I actually bit the song off of the record. I bit it off so that they couldn't play that song. I knew it was the first song on the record. So I took it and I took a big ass bite out of the record, and they were like, what the hell happened to this? And they're like, yeah, playing that song anymore. So that's how I got interested in vinyl, funny enough. That was my first thing, just to know that by looking at the bands on the record, you know, where the songs start, the darkened parts on the wax where the songs start and end, I could tell that was the leader of the pack. So I took a big ass bite out of it.
That's interesting on a bunch of different levels. Just the fact that you had such an emotional response for it at such a young age, I can empathize with that too, because the connection I have with music, for conversation's sake, I just always quote it, it is a drug. It hits me on a level that I don't think other people really get. So I feel that tenfold. But that's interesting that seed of Ace Frehley was planted there. It leads me to ask, though, when did the guitar come into play?
I think right away, as soon as I saw that on fire, and it wasn't an emergency. You know, I saw a guitar on fire that was being glorified. It wasn't an emergency. Nobody was trying to put the guitar out. So I thought, what is that? And then once I started, you know, my mom would play records in the house. And so I knew music existed in that form. And then when I found out that Ace Frehley was part of something that was musical, I went straight to Kiss. And that was all I listened to, because I didn't have any visual stimulation that attracted me to other bands. So everything was visually connected to music at that time. So I wanted to learn guitar. My mom and dad put me on a piano because my dad had bought my mom a piano. So, and she played piano. So I started to take piano lessons, and it was horrible. It took the fun out of it. My teacher was very, very impatient.
Oh, man.
You know, and then at the end of the day, she would act all nice around my parents when they came to pick me up. You know, oh, he's doing so well. He's doing so well. But she'd be like, no, it's a middle C. And then she would give me candy that somehow tasted like poison. I mean, it was weird because even my parents were like, let me taste that. Because I'd always be like, ugh. And then my dad tasted it. He's like, ugh, what is this? So I'm not going to say she tried to poison me, but me and my dad and I both saw that there was something wrong with the reward of that piano lesson. And then I just got tired of that. So finally I got to move over to guitar about 7 and then take lessons at 8 with James Ingram, who had a hit with that Disney movie with the mouse. I forget what it was.
An American Tale? Like
yes.
Final Goes West, I think that was.
Yes, An American Tale. That's it. There was a hit song. His brother was my teacher, not him. He was my first guitar teacher, and I really liked him. And I learned a lot right away. And I did a recital, which put me in a little bit of some experience in front of an audience, and I wasn't too nervous or anything. And I just kept going. I never stopped taking lessons.
Do you remember what the first guitar was that you got? What kind?
It was my mother's best friend's son had given up, had stopped taking lessons. He lived across the street. And he had this kind of generic, brandless guitar, electric guitar.
Fender Strat knockoff?
Yeah, a knockoff. Yeah. I don't know of which one. Maybe it kind of looked Fender-y.
But it had the same like Strat kind of pick guard sort of thing?
Yeah. It was a knockoff. It wasn't even meant for like a junior, like a child guitar. It was just an adult cheap knockoff. And she bought it from her friend for $50 and played on that for a long time.
What's a long time?
Probably 3 or 4 years before it stopped working.
Is that when you finally bought your first guitar, like the actual guitar? You know what I mean? Or did that come a few years later down the line, or what?
Well, the next one was like a blue BC Rich knockoff. You know, parents don't expect you to stick with things that even seem to be an obsession. I mean, they think it's a phase you're going to go through, but I 24/7 was listening to music nonstop, especially Kiss albums, nonstop. I was in my room listening, experimenting with my ears, listening to one speaker. I would unplug one speaker in a stereo and listen to what was going on in one. And then I would listen to the other one. And I started to try to sow the seed for understanding
how
stereo
form works and how sounds stack together. That's awesome.
Exactly, yeah. So I just became all those songs are in my head. I don't even really need to listen to Kiss anymore. When I do, I'm just like, I know this song. If I know those songs so well that I don't need, it's like movies, don't need to watch them anymore because you can sit and recite them from front to back. So you're not going to see anything or hear anything you didn't hear before. So if I want to listen to a Kiss song, I can sit here and do it in silence. You know? Probably start it at the same time it would start and end it at the exact same time it would end.
That's funny.
It's crazy, but that's obviously was an obsession. It wasn't just infatuation. It became an obsession to the point where I had no social life whatsoever. So that was that.
That's what you got to do, though. And I mean, you were being creative with the ways you were listening to it. Back then, we didn't have the ability to extract anything or any of these fun, digital tools that we had. So even doing that, I remember doing that with headphone jacks and breaking apart songs and trying to understand how volume panning worked and what exactly was happening. So, man, that's a funny jump down memory lane mentioning that one.
And I learned very early on how to fix skips on vinyl. You know, people, when they hear a skip, they think the record's broken. I know how to fix those skips.
Interesting.
And I learned it very young because I knew I wasn't going to go out, and my parents weren't about to take me out and buy me a record I already had. So I would, instead of sitting there listening to I would just learn. I have a way of, I use it to this day, of fixing a skip on a record.
Your adolescence, though, was still carried through the time of cassettes and CDs and all that. But at your house, was everyone like a vinyl head? Was that the main thing, or no?
There was no. In our house, a vinyl was used to play music, and for me, it was don't bend the cover. Don't. I'm still like that. Don't take the record out with your fingertips. Hold it like this. But eventually, even that, my records got to the point where even with such care, they became crap, like bent up and scratched up and stuff like that. That's how much I was playing them, but I still have a lot of the original records that I had when I was 2. And they're hilarious because with how much I cared about the condition, you would never know that, but they're 40 years old.
Nice.
So,
Kenneth, your current bandmate, I'm curious when you crossed paths with him.
Well, when I stopped playing Parker guitars, which was another long story. Eventually, I stopped endorsing Parker guitars, and I was looking for another guitar company, and I was approached by Esoterik Records, and somebody that that was artist relations for Esoterik. His name is Dave. He actually became a member of Foreign Objects as well, but that's jumping the gun. So Dave introduced me to Ken because I needed a place to record, and I wanted to do a 20th anniversary Foreign Objects album because I had written a bunch of Foreign Objects stuff over the years. So he hooked me up with him, and then just found himself in the band.
when I got the okay to do the interview, I started going down this rabbit hole, and it was almost like just so much stuff coming at me. It was almost a lot to take on. I don't think people understand how big your background is with how many different bands and how many musicians you've worked with. But trying to take things back to gear and stuff like that. When I was looking into these playthrough videos that 96 Bitter Beings has put out recently, I saw Kenneth's studio, and I saw that he had an AxeFx in there, and I was curious if you yourself had an opinion on that versus what a lot of people know, that you've always been a pedal guy. You created your own kind of signature sound out of that, but modern guitar players are going to this modular, a little bit easier one unit type rack. I was curious, have you messed with that in the studio at all? Do you have any kind of opinion on that? Like, do you ever see yourself maybe even like swapping what you're doing to get something like that?
Well, I'm not a gearhead, so I'm kind of puzzled by exactly what you're talking about, because I don't know the names of things like that. You would have to,
Hilarious.
you would have to. I really don't. Like I've said many times, I don't even like guitars. I don't like guitars. I think that they don't look as cool as they could look, and the ones that do look cool don't look cool. I think that they're not always easy to play. They just I don't like guitars. I like to play them. I like what they do. You know, I don't like cars either. Some people are car heads. This is a 1964 Pontiac, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but will it go where you want it to go? Actually, no, it needs to be fixed. It's like, all right, well, then you like cars you don't even have to run. They don't even have to work. I don't know anything about equipment at all. Nothing. And people are like, what are you talking about? I seriously don't know any of the things you just asked.
No, that's more than fine. Then maybe I can actually give you some information, but that's great to know. I should ask, though, do you get all your guitars tuned up and repaired by, like, do you have a local guy or somebody that goes on tour with you that works on them?
Oh, yeah. I have in the past, and when it needs that, like to correct intonation and stuff like that, I do know that. I know how to tune and stuff like that, and trial and error has gotten me to what kind of strings I like and what'll work for me. That's why I play so long without the bottom two strings, because I don't like them. And they get in the way of the riffs that I have written. So rather than just worry about hitting an open bottom string, whether it be the B or the E, those razor blade, fingertip splitting strings, I would just remove them. And but yeah, I mean, it's limited. I mean, a lot of people, do I still mic amps and record with mic amplifiers? No. Because studios that used to be this huge building where there would be a vocal booth, and there would be a place to set up amps, and there would be drums, and there would be the console and the room where you engineer and you mix and all that stuff. They no longer exist because everybody realizes that you can record much cheaper and arguably get a better sound than back then using tape and stuff like that. So to mic up an amplifier, which we used to do, against getting a guitar sound that you're gonna like, it's already been proven to me that I like that better, because comparing the guitar sounds I get now with guitar sounds that I got through a mic'd amp, I'm glad that there's been an update in technology, because I think it's an improvement, because I listen to the older material and I don't like the guitar sound. I wish it could have been changed to something a little bit, whatever, different. So now you can just record using a direct input into the whatever, the modifier, the
software, yeah,
the thingamajig, and you can fix it to whatever sound you want now. And some people might be like, well, blah, 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 blah. Well, you get the money to spend all that time setting that stuff up, and it's hard to find a place that is a studio. A lot of studios closed down, and then a lot of them are private, and they're run by people that have bands and record their own bands. And we have all this gear, this top-notch gear that's in an apartment. So we can get anything that everybody else gets in an apartment, unless it's drums or miking drums and stuff like that. That's still an important part of it. But, other than that, it's like you don't have to have your guitar tuned up loud. Now, vocals, when I'm recording vocals, sometimes the person that lives upstairs will knock on the floor, because I'm screaming or singing past a certain bedtime or something. That's the only inconvenience. But other than that, everything can be done right there in one spot.
Well, I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. I should mention first, okay, so that piece of gear that you weren't familiar with is just a rack unit that Ken has at a studio. And basically, it's exactly what you were describing. You're plugging in DI, and from there you can choose a whole bunch of different guitar sounds, cabinet sounds, stuff like
Anything.
that. At your fingertips. There's even, I don't own one, but I'll put money on it that there is a Deron Miller CKY sound like in there that somebody has made.
I've seen it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's funny because it's ironic that it doesn't sound like.
Really, that's even funny.
It doesn't. I mean, Ken. Actually, I don't know if it was Ken, but somebody said, "Oh, here's your sound. You want to use that?" And I'm like, "Well, what does it sound? It doesn't sound much."
Yeah, some of the pedals that you have a certain sound to them, and people can try to copy it, but that's what led me to ask if you ever tried it, because and I don't know if your gear's at home. I would love a walkthrough of the pedal board, or even if you could remember what's in there. But I know that pedal chain has been something that you've always relied on for a long time. Some people think can be chaotic live, so they go to that one-piece unit. But if the sounds aren't the same, and if it's not broke, don't fix it, and you like it, I could see why you're just like, yeah, I'm not going to replicate the sound. I've built my guitar sound over the years. I'm going to continue.
But it's also a matter of the way that a guitar player plays. I mean, you can plug in a standard generic sound, and somebody that is known for their style will get on, and you'll know that it's that person. Mm. So I don't know anybody that's a guitarist that still says, I have no idea what you're using. What I'm using is modified or enhanced by the way I play. I play very precision. I don't bend notes. I like to pause in between 30-second notes. Dead, die, kill off the sound. So a lot of people are like, man, I have that octave pedal, but it just doesn't sound like your sound. It's like, well, I'm playing to the sound.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it gets a different thing. But sometimes, this recognizable style that I have is a nuisance to me, because when I try to step outside that box of what I do, what I sound like, I can't. It always ends up sounding like what I'm doing. So anytime I experiment, people say, I could tell that that's you. But I wanted to try something else. But no, it's a gift. It's a gift that we're given as musicians, if we're lucky enough for people to recognize when we're playing an instrument right off the bat.
Well, regardless of if you know some of the gear out there or not, I think your guitar sound that you've developed over time, is that kind of double-edged sword, because it can, you can't get tiresome of it, but also
limited.
Something, limited, but we could use that phrase, but it's also something that is completely original and has inspired a ton of people to do a whole lot. So there's not, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it, comes into play, The
only time I feel it's broke is like under the current situation when there's a writer's block. I'm like, oh God, that's just the same old riff that I've been writing for the last 25 years. And if I don't get inspired by something like a riff that is considered to be what I would play, then I don't use it. So sometimes I'll have to take something that sounds uninspired and record it, maybe go back to it a week later. And if I still don't see anything there, then I scrap it for good. But I have tapes and tapes and tapes and tapes and tapes of unused stuff. That
I think that's remarkable, though, because a lot of this is coming out from a level of being self-taught. And I think that you're able to follow those instincts, and it works really well for what you do. And a lot of other people may disagree. They might be like, you know, guitars are pretty, or you need those high strings or whatever. But it works for, like you said, your style and how you play. And there's probably a bunch of stories I could tell you to stroke your ego, but that's not why I'm here. But I will tell you this one, because I do think it actually goes hand in hand with what you're saying about your style. When I was taking classes in college, I took private lessons from some Berkeley guitar teacher named John something. I can't remember his name. Some jazz guitar player, whatever.
Yeah.
I have really small hands. For a lot of my life, I was a short, fat guy. I'm a little bit taller now, but my hands are always pretty small. And every teacher I would play would be like, man, guitar is going to be tough for you. You know, just trying to stretch along, it's just going to be really tough. And when he saw my playing, which at that time needed a lot of work, I was doing a lot of extra down picking, I guess you could say. But when he watched my playing, he was like, you know, I don't think guitar's for you. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, do you see how you're constantly sliding up to the note instead of traveling down the neck to the higher strings? See, somebody who's classically trained would be able to know where the notes are, yet you're sliding around it. And I swear to God, my response to him was, you know, this works for Deron Miller, and this is fine for me, and I like that style, and these are, you know, things that I enjoy playing in my riffs. I like staccato stops. I like slides. I don't want to travel up. I want to slide to the note. Don't tell me that. Get the hell out of here. Never took lessons.
Well, how bizarre is it that somebody's trying to put rules on something that has no rules? I actually have I have a Berkeley story when I went up there and I was supposed to go for a summer program, and I ended up leaving after a week because you can't give rules to something. You can't give rules to art. There's no such thing, because as soon as there's a rule for art, somebody's going to come around and break it, and everybody's going to love that. You can't tell somebody how to play.
Giving them tools that have been used over ages, from Bach to the Monkees, you know what I mean? These are fine tools to know, but to tell somebody when they've created something that sounds good to them or works for them or is a preference to them that it's wrong because someone else did it, and let's say you, for example, you know what I mean? It's clearly worked for you. Who the hell are they to say that you're playing it wrong? This is a subjective thing, you know? So it's, I don't know, baffling to say the least.
Well, the problem is that a lot of people, their parents are trying to encourage them. They're kind of caught in the middle. A parent having a kid that their only objective in life is to do music for a living, that scares the parents. So they think that they're justifying all the time that is spent on a kid that is that into it. They justify it by saying, well, he's in school for music, so now I feel comfortable. You can't be schooled on music past a certain physical point. Once you're able to understand how in the future you're going to get better at doing what you're trying to do now, it's over. Teaching a guitar is, okay, here's how you tune. Here's how you might be able to play a chord, you know, the basics. It's the basic, you know, it's like driving, you know, my daughter wants to go out she wants to get her driver's license, but you can't go driving without knowing where the headlights are. You can't drive without knowing how to park. So you have to learn that stuff first. And then even when you get out on the road, there's shit that can't be taught that messes up that process. Like, I got to slam on my brakes because this asshole cut in front of me. All that stuff is stuff that you learn after you learn the basics of how to operate that machinery, that guitar, car, whatever. So a teacher's stepping in the way of how you're trying to get to where you want to be is absurd. Mm-hmm. It's a waste, because once you know, unless you're going to Berkeley for a music business class or something like that, you can't get a diploma for guitar playing unless it's a test of, can you play this whole thing without making a mistake? It kills the creativity, and you're trying to learn, somebody's trying to teach you the way they do things. So that's a scam. So yeah. Berkeley music and all that shit, it's a scam. Now, finding a good guitar teacher is difficult, but a good guitar teacher isn't going to sit there and tell you, well, you could do it that way, but you got to do it this way. That's makes no sense.
Well, Berkeley definitely puts out a certain type of musician, and they're definitely able to hold their own. But that level that you're talking about, that
If they're
isn't in the
interested in it,
textbook. Oh
yeah,
yeah, well yeah, definitely.
you got to
If
be
they
into
want,
it. You can't go into Berkeley saying I've never picked up a guitar, but when I leave here, I'm going to be awesome. Well, why haven't you picked up a guitar? Why are you here? So it's all about the passion. That's how you develop talent: is passion and time and
yeah, there's a
practice.
big difference between people who want to come out of there being able to sight read and grab a show, at any
Big
moment,
difference,
versus somebody who's like, I want to write songs. I want to
right?
understand melodies, and maybe if you're a shredder or something, I want to understand modes, and that's about as far as I'm going to go with this, to
Right.
understand the relationship. But to be able to sight read everything and do some of these other tools, it may not even be, what's the word, pertinent for what you do.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be a studio musician in an orchestra, it definitely works.
Yeah.
I envy people that can read music. I am a very slow music reader. I
Me
can,
too.
during piano lessons, I mean, if there was probably one bar of music written out for guitar part, it would probably take me a whole day to decipher that. But I play by ear. So once you play by ear and you're able to figure out music by ear, the writing process no longer becomes relevant. But if you're a professional violinist and somebody says, here's this song we play in 3 hours, go learn it, they're going to know how to do it because they know how to read music, and they're not the creative part of that material. They're just somebody that's going to be playing that part with other people, and they have to be able to read music so that they can get it right without rehearsing it. There's benefits to it, but guarantee you whoever wrote the piece that they're going to be reading didn't do that. That's not, they do it by ear, And there's a lot, just Beethoven, and they write stuff down, they wrote out their music. But that's that part of music writing is beyond, like, being able to write an original piece instead of just reading something that's already written is just a mindset that I can't even comprehend. It blows me away. There are some people, I'm sure they still exist, that can sit down and write out music and have a song, a finished song. I would love to be able to do that, but I don't need to. So I don't.
Do you use any like tablature programs over the years or anything like that?
I learned a lot by tab books. I used to play, I learned a lot of Metallica riffs from tab books, but a lot of guitar players will tell you out there are mistakes in Metallica tab books.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The riff for Blackened is not right in the And Justice for All tab book. So it's funny, there's a lot of people that play Blackened, you can tell they went by the tab book because they're playing the riff wrong. So I knew that even tab books make mistakes because they're translated by guitar players that don't know by ear how to learn music.
Yeah, and then everyone has a different interpretation because you might see a note in one way because you're reading and feeling it one way, though somebody could write it in a different note duration that equals the same amount, so it's up to interpretation. For example, if you go to Ultimate Guitar, I'm just going to assume, and if I'm wrong, I'll edit this out, but I guarantee if you look under CKY, there's going to be like 5 different 96-bitter being versions, you know what I mean? Made by all these different people, trying to get their best arrangement, which I think you over time have had to clear that up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Play it right,
I don't think I've ever, maybe once or twice, I know there's been once or twice, but I have 99% of the time someone says, is this right? I say, no, it's not. Actually, it's not right. And that has to do with the way you hear. Now, I remember trying to learn songs by ear, and then later on, when I'd still be playing them years later, the way I learned it, I'm like, that's actually not right. And, every single riff, there's always people on you, they'll send me links to someone else playing it on YouTube. Is this how you play Shock and Terror? And sometimes I'll be like, it is, but it isn't the easiest way to play it. They're actually making it more difficult by doing it all on one string when you can do it very easily on 2 strings. Then there's the people that just are totally off because their ear doesn't tell them it's not the right notes. Eventually you get to a part, if you train your ear enough, you get so many benefits from being able to train your ear. You can tell when something's just the slightest bit out of tune. You can tell when a vocal is just the slightest bit out of key. You can also tell where the riffs that you're trying to learn from other bands aren't right. There might be one note wrong. There might be even a rhythm thing. I've heard that's the riff, but obviously it's not the right tempo, it's not the right timing, and there's some wrong notes in there. But to them, it sounds right because they still have to get to that part where their ear is totally trained. But I have been seriously very impressed with people that have figured out music. There's a lot of good guitar players online, and thank God they're young guys and girls that are online. They want to learn how to play. They want to be in a rock band. They see rock and roll as part of their future when it's going through such a dry spell right now. It's not a mainstream thing. Rock and metal are not mainstream right now. It's very hard to find. Even the stuff that is advertised is hard to find because musically we're overcome by all this pop stuff, and none of it's real. It's all auto-tuned, and it's always names of people. Lady Gaga. It's always like first, last name people that are really popular right now, or goofy nicknames, something like Little Nas or something.
Well, in regards to what you were saying about being, following your ear more than being classically trained, you also have to point out that you've been playing guitar for so long that you probably visually see so many different patterns that you're so used to playing and just knowing where to go that you can trust your instincts in a lot of these ways, opposed to having to think like, well, hey, what key is this in? What scale do I need to bring this to? How does this mesh together? You can at least follow your instincts. But to your later point,
that's a double-edged sword as well. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, because sometimes, you'll be coming up with the same type of patterns and the same, licks. So sometimes that can be limited, and you'll have to kind of bounce around. I definitely get that. Which is weird because sometimes that similarity can be cool because you'll have your own vibe or your own sound, and then other times you're like, I'm literally playing the exact same run of this other song. Welcome to Green Day. You know what I mean? Every song is the same 3 chords.
Exactly. But Billy Joe Armstrong isn't known for his guitar ability.
For sure.
That's that's a whole other thing. But it's very frustrating and frustrating to catch myself not going to a certain note because I know what it's going to sound like. I can look downward at a guitar and I know what it's going to sound like when I play something. And I wish I didn't get so caught up in that. I can look down at the strings and I say, well, if I play that riff like that, it's going to sound like this. So why don't I try to do something else? So I've gotten to the point where I can look at a guitar that's facing outward, but my eyes looking down on it and say, I already know what it's going to sound like. So then I try to come up with different rhythms. Maybe I should try these notes with a different rhythm. And sometimes that's satisfying and sometimes it's not. The thing that uninspires me the most is just me sitting with a guitar, not having a drum beat behind it, not having a way to instantly offset one guitar
sheet of paper staring back
at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I get really inspired now by going in, we'll use a drum machine to come up with some crazy beat, and then automatically I'm able to feel that and start going. That's how our song Blood Rock Mania was written, pretty much. We had a drum beat that was just familiar. I went to go do something in my car. I told Sean Luera, who's our bass player, write something that's dark and danceable. And I came back and he had something down there, and what he had done immediately sent me to the chorus riff of that song without even thinking about it. And I just started to play it. And it became not only fun to play, which is unfortunately a huge thing that I have to be satisfied with. Is this fun to play? Is this challenging? That I wish I could get rid of that crap. But this interesting, challenging part came up, and then that's the chorus for the song. So working with other people with writing is something I'm not really experienced with. But now I'm starting to get that, and there's starting to be people that are offering ideas and contributing to songs, and it makes it a lot more fun and easier for me not to repeat myself.
Dude, that is so interesting on a number of levels, because you're old enough to remember so many bad drum machines from back in the day.
Yeah.
To now how many amazing tools we have to spark creativity for the layman, for people at home. It's astonishing. And people do, they buy MIDI packs and different grooves and things to just inspire them, because you can get stagnant. But
Yeah.
I was watching that infamous, one of the, shit, it was right after Carver City. There were like two very popular videos you put out, which was either the making of Carver City, and then it was like speaking with all the members about it. And you, Jess was notably saying, we don't want people to steal the Rolls Royce. That line came from there. And I think you mentioned in there too, when they talked about CKY wanting to do 4 independent albums, that's what it was. And everyone wanted to do their own thing. I believe in the video that at the time you were just like, I don't know, like the writing, it just didn't seem like it was pulling you too much. But to see that and to see what has transpired, and then to hear that you're working with guys that do give you that response, that you aren't completely independently writing like you do with some of the CKYs, go in this cave and write, and now you can sponge with these guys. Dude, that has got to be really cathartic for a number
a very
of
huge weight, yes, off my shoulders. Yeah. But I still like to write by myself, because sometimes, there is that magic moment where you've been playing for 2 hours and then something comes up and it's like, whoa, I got to record this quick. I got to set up this thing and record it before I forget it. That happens. It's how that Roller Rager song came about. I had spent probably 3 hours being frustrated and uninspired, and then all of a sudden I just went, and I came up with that melody, and I was like, wow, that melody is taking me somewhere. It's making me feel something. So
yeah, but you could only do that spending the 3 hours and busting your head against the wall kind of thing. Yeah.
You never know what part of that sitting down and playing session something good is going to come up. It could happen right away. Might not happen at all. And that's what I've been dealing with for the last couple of weeks is, well, most of it is not even wanting to plug in my hand, not even wanting to tune my guitar. But, I still push myself to try stuff, and I'm just like, I'm just so uninspired right now. I'm not feeling it. I don't. And then I'm like worried because I'm like, am I losing it? And then I'll be like, wait a minute, I don't even want to listen to any music right now. And that's scary. But then
that at least lets you know that you're not losing it. It's just not that day,
Yeah, or that month, And it was interesting because a lot of guitar players that I like Jeff Waters, he posts messages like, I haven't touched a guitar in 3 months. And I've been like, wow, I've never done that. But if he can come up with all this amazing stuff and take that long of a break, then obviously he gets uninspired at times too. I know it's going to stop. I know it's going to end, but it's not fun to be in it or in the middle of it and not knowing when it's going to end.
Yeah, it's like being in war. It's being in this shit, and that's a difficult part to deal with. But man, having that camaraderie in your later,
it's a hard word to say, camaraderie. Yeah, camaraderie.
In your later years is got to be such a really good thing. And even if you may not be feeling it, to know that you have those people there that will encourage you and throw you ideas and stuff that you can trust. That's most people your age who are doing this, and I don't mean that offensively by your age, I'm 35, but most people don't have that luxury. Usually it's a one-man show running all the material, hiring people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's a band who's working with one key songwriter or something of the sort. So to have that luxury, hopefully once you independently ebb and flow, that's something you can continue to hold on to, because that's a really awesome thing. I'm very envious of that in many ways, but happy because I know that you've been in situations that weren't always that cathartic. So that's a testament to what you're doing now, and why you're so happy about everything you're doing now, which I should just ask. This is a good a little segue, even though I know we're jumping around timeline-wise. You guys just released a cover of Paranoiattack by The Faint. I wasn't familiar with The Faint at all, honestly.
Neither was I.
But as soon as I
Neither.
heard the original, I was instantly hooked, and I heard just, it was like, oh, okay. Like, this makes sense. There's so many relatable...
Sorry.
You're all good.
Okay. Go ahead.
There were so many like relatable parallels in the writing that I was like, okay, I think I can see why they covered it. And I was just curious, where am I here?
Well, I wasn't familiar with the song. In fact, I had forgotten that we even covered it. We have an album in the can already. And, it's the thing that makes it so frustrating is that the business is on pause because of, the COVID thing. And now we have a new strain of it and everybody's worried, we're going to be in lockdown again. And it's just, everything's on pause. And I don't like on pause. And that could be contributing to why it's such a hard time for me right now because of the paranoia and the propaganda and the people that do get sick and just all this crap that stops people that need to be able to help you from wanting to help or being able to help. So you just kind of get trapped. But that's why we have been working on so many covers. And I've already started to write the next album. And we've done so many covers. And I think to appease people that are waiting for our next record, we're going to start introducing these cover songs as kind of like, something to nibble on while they're waiting for the albums. Covers are very easy, especially if you're familiar with the song. It can be done very quickly. Now, a song like Paranoiattack, I never heard it before. I never heard of the band. I didn't even know who the artist was when I did it. It was just something that somebody wanted us to do. And
who brought it up?
It was, I don't know specifically who, but when we were campaigning to raise funds for the recording of our albums and the equipment we were going to need and all that stuff, we had a perk where you could command us to do a song. So a lot of people sent in songs, right? So that, and it was their option to either keep it for themselves or to share it. And a lot of people have kept their songs that we've done. Some people out there have songs that only they have. No one else has heard it. Mm-hmm. And then there's some people that said, I'll share it. I'll put it up online. So once we got permission from that person to be able to share it, that's when it went up. And then there are songs that I wanted to cover, like I wanted to do Ozzy's new one, Under the Graveyard, which I think is an amazing song. So I covered that, but I didn't do the heavy part because I think it kind of kills the song. So I did the really touching part, the beginning, and it's like 4 minutes before it gets into something I think not ruins it, just changes the vibe. And there's pieces of so many different things that are just waiting to be put out. But this album is this thing that I really want to get out there. And with there's a shortage of vinyl factories, and everybody's waiting to tour. Everything's like a year behind. There's things that have been done a year ago that still won't come out for another year. So it's like vinyl is doing really well right now, but nobody was prepared for it. So now they have all this demand for vinyl, but they don't have any way to fulfill it. So there's like this 9-month waiting list because nobody was prepared for the. And I say this all the time. Anybody with multi-million dollars out there, invest in a record plant because you're going to make a fortune. It is ridiculous how much of a shortage in vinyl there is. I mean, even Taylor Swift is selling 100,000 vinyl, which is would have been unheard of 5 years ago, which means that kids and people that are not music obsessed want to hear vinyl. Before that, 10 years ago, it was like, oh, let's appease the collectors. Let's put out 3,000 copies on a vinyl. It's not like that anymore. People are leaving the streaming aspect, or at least enhancing it by getting vinyl after they stream something and they want to own it. And that's the comeback that I've always wanted, because that's where I am. I'm an own the album person. I don't want to stream it. I want to own it.
Yeah, the consumption of physical media definitely went away for a long time, but it's nice to see that people still have a love for it and are kind of getting a little bit, I don't know, tired of a few of these different approaches. And it's good to see that, it's good to see that people are taking different chances and still investing into it.
And it's blown up. It's blown up,
kudos.
Which is great, but no one's prepared for it. So they're running around chickens with their heads off trying to figure out, like, why we're not going to be able to take all these orders and people are throwing us money and they have to be on this waiting list. Somebody should open record plants. And a lot of that stuff is vintage and isn't even made anymore. So they have to come up with new ways to make this old product.
Well, it's interesting. I wonder if it's just because disc makers has had such a monopoly over the CD game and those are being phased out, I wonder if there is just like this opening that some company could jump in and actually do something, because you're not the first musician that I've heard that has been on a waiting list to get vinyl made. So
it's horrible. It's fucking horrible.
Seems interesting. But I did want to say huge kudos to that fan who picked out the song, because they obviously picked out a song with a killer melody in it that worked out well. And when I heard the song, I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. Really loved listening to the original and going back and forth. I thought that was really cool. If people haven't heard it, I'll definitely link it around and let people, know what's up with that.
Yeah, it was really fun to do. It was fun. It's a challenge, and it's fun. It's artistically a challenge, but it's also like a physical challenge. Can I get away with this? Can I do a version of this that people will respect against the original? And I've done a lot of covers, and we're currently in the process of re-recording all the old CKY material and a lot of material from all different projects that I've done to update them and to get them back to me and to improve on them or even change them slightly or, add things that I thought always should have been there. Improve the sounds of certain things, improve the vocals, and we're well into that too while we wait for the record company to figure out what they're going to do with all these albums that they have planned for release while there's a waiting list. Yeah.
You were talking about re-recording CKY tones or CKY songs, and earlier,
all of them.
Earlier, you mentioned that there were songs that the guitar tone you didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
What songs were you talking about? Was there certain band recordings or certain songs in particular that you're like, oh, this is nails on the chalkboard kind of thing?
Well, the only album where I'm happy with the guitar sounds is Volume 1. I think that the other albums have, for the second album, for Infiltrate, there are songs that have cool guitar parts, guitar sounds. But we switched up so many times and we ended up with different sounds. And there's guitar tones on Escape from Hellview. I just know that could be better. Flesh and a Gear is okay. I think Sink into the Underground doesn't have a very good guitar tone. I did a demo of that song before we recorded it, and I had a much deeper, heavier, grindy tone to that chorus riff. And we re-recorded it, and we got that finally. And then Answer Can Be Found is just a mess to me. I can't stand it because that album was erased, and we had to spend a lot of money to get a data recovery company to get the material back after it was erased. Now, these are people that work for deleted texts and deleted emails. They have to recover this stuff. We were trying to recover the material that we spent years recording. That in itself is probably a book. I could write a book about that situation. It was a disaster.
I don't think
a disaster.
I mean, when I said I started doing homework, and I've been a fan for years, so I know a lot of the history, but I started diving into more stuff, and I'm like, damn, dude, I've got a lot I could potentially ask here. But I never ran into that story at all.
Oh, man. Well, we had to hide it for a long time because the record company had found out. It would have been a nightmare. But for us, it was an extremely extremely stressful situation and a lot of resentment and hatred towards the one person that was responsible. And
no.
Yeah, and just the time and all the things that we nailed perfectly were gone. And when it was retrieved, it came to us in like a puzzle. Looked like it all was like, it didn't even come to us in any kind of order. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. So we had to go to Sony Studios and have somebody sit there and do this jigsaw puzzle, 10,000, 50,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, put the album together. So every time I hear it, I hear that it's not the best guitar sound. It wasn't this guitar sound we had. It was stuff we taped over. So Answer Can Be Found is mostly made up of takes that we erased.
Wait. So you say because of a person there, and I mean, like you said, you could read a book. So my initial thought was that the computer bricked. You lost the work, but the hard drive was still there. Maybe you could go into it, but you're
the hard drive wasn't being backed up.
Oof.
And it actually melted. The guy forgot to back the hard drive up and overloaded it with so much information that it just melted and we lost everything.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, it's a testament to even if you don't like that guitar sound, I know that some of those singles on there, you're probably still eating very well off those. But wow, that's a crazy story because, oh man, that had to have been a nightmare. Because if they pulled the files off, depending on what kind of, if you were using Pro Tools or whatever it is, they could have just, I'm just imagining the file directory getting messed up as they're transferring it. So like when you say you open it up, it's a 10,000 piece puzzle because everything's just all over the place. It's not where it's supposed to be. That had to have been a fucking nightmare, dude.
Beyond a nightmare. It was crushing. I got a phone call at 4 a.m. right after we had completed it. We said, that's a wrap. It's done. And I got a phone call from Chad saying the album is totally erased. And I thought, that's so fucking funny. Ha ha ha. Yeah. And he's like, no, it's erased and I'm going to the studio to kill him. And I was like, he's probably going to kill him. So I got in my car at 4 o'clock. I drove down to 4th Street, Santa Monica Studios and basically had to stop a murder because it was beyond. And then just the attitude, how unapologetic the person was and how they still expected to get paid.
Shit.
I have never in my life seen that kind of behavior. And I think that has thrown me and it's made me the person who I am today, where I'm very quick to judge somebody's character because I could see certain things in certain people that I've met over the years in everybody. Mm-hmm. So that was a very educational period. You know, I can't even laugh now. It's not even.
No, yeah, that's not.
You know, they say everything. You'll be laughing at this in 5 years. I might be snickering as a defense mechanism, but I'm not laughing. It's not funny at all. It was crushing.
I mean, you might be able to laugh at the fact that you're still getting residuals off of it years later, despite what made it to album. But
that album sold half of the one before, so. I mean, but also record sales were in 50% decline at that time.
Yeah, a little bit different time. But that is, oh, man. It makes me want to ask, how long was invested into tracking before you finished? How long were you in the studio?
Years. That's why there was such a big gap between Infiltrate and Answer Can Be Found, because 2003 and 2004 were all about recording it, and 2005 was all about recovering it and keeping the recovering a secret from the record company. So when I listen to that album, I just hear puzzle pieces and bad vocal takes that weren't supposed to be on it. And the only part of that album that was supposed to be, when they recovered the data, they couldn't find the guitars for Dressed in Decay. So I recorded those guitars at Sony Studios in New York because we couldn't find them. So and that guitar sound, if anybody listens to that album, is different. It sounds better, I think, than the rest of the album because I re-recorded that. And we had to re-record little tidbits, little harmonies, but we were out of money and we frankly were tired of working on it. And we just sat there and let them piece it together as a puzzle. So yeah, I mean, people don't hear that, but I hear it. So I definitely, I mean, those songs I've been tackling first. I would love to hear a real version of Suddenly Tragic, or a real version of The Way You Lived, even a real version of Familiar Realm. I would love to, and I already have. I've already done Triple Manic State. I've already done Suddenly Tragic. You know, I'm going to do As Tables Turn, Sniped. I already started doing Sniped. All of it over again to get it the way it could have been.
That is bonkers, man. That is a very crazy story. And I don't know if it's a testament to you guys, if it's a testament who is ever mixing and mastering it, or if it's a testament to Sony just putting it out. You know what I mean? What they needed to do to get it done, to get it out. Because
we had a very experienced Pro Tools guy. I think his name was Pablo. And he went in there, and I flew to New York, and I was just panicking. I was trying to get a straight answer for how much was recouped, how much was missing. Right as I arrived at Sony Studios, the guy that did it, the guy that screwed us, called and said, "Hey, man, I haven't been paid for those last 2 sessions." And it's just like, you could not have called at a worse time. We're seriously at the other side of the country because of you, spending thousands, tens of thousands of dollars because of you. And you want to get paid for the hours you spent pretty much destroying our work? Unbelievable. Unbelievable behavior. It's like sociopathic. So I've come to expect anything from anybody at this point. It's very hard to trust people now because of situations like that. There's definitely scars for that, to spend $250,000 and have it just erased. But now you don't have to spend nearly that much money on a record. And if something gets erased, you do it over. And, you know, now we know how to prevent that shit, you know. But I'm still cautious. I'm like, did you save that? Did you save that? You know,
well,
because
as you should be, you know what I mean? It makes perfect sense. And I don't think you come off as a jaded, musician. I don't think you'd be doing this if you were fully jaded because of it. You still find a way to still move forward and do it. Like you said, this is what you do. So regardless of if it's hard to hear or hard to do it, like, you're still weathering the storm. And that's a huge testament that a lot of musicians really don't get. They don't understand that that's a huge point of it, that you need to keep rolling with the punches. You need to keep, fighting. And yeah, of course you're going to have those things up. I mean, you paid one hell of a life lesson right there, but at least you're smart enough to know that lesson and apply it, opposed to a lot of your other peers and a lot of other musicians out there who would just be like, fuck all this, fuck you, and just fucking lose their shit. And that would be the end of it. You know what I mean?
But not, it's funny that you say that, because not having to say, forget it, scrap it, or to quit was never even an option. We were just like, well, we're going to have to do what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to keep it from the record label, first and foremost. Second, we're going to have to try to find the money, maybe get the money maybe get the time from the studio who had the guy working there that caused it. We were figuring out all kinds of ways. I mean, but the biggest problem was, how long can we take to, it's going to be even bigger gap between records. So we did what we could and we released it. The album cover is terrible because we didn't think of an album. It's just not the album it could have been. So
yeah, but focusing on those, you're definitely going to pull out a lot of those negatives from the experience. But again, like, it should be stated that, I don't know if it's just, it's very punk rock. Like, that's very punk rock. Keep it from the label. Still moving forward. Be like, this is what we're fucking doing. I don't give a fuck. This is how I work. This means something. This is what I do. Most people don't do that. They would shit their pants and buckle down in that kind of situation. And I think that's a testament, along a lot of other testaments you've been through that haven't worn you down. And that's good shit, man. It definitely goes noticed by a lot of people. And hearing that hearing that story is blowing my mind, but just the way that you were able to kind of push through that and not kill that guy is quite the testament, man.
Well, I appreciate that, but I can't take full credit for that because I know what it's like to hear and love an album that the band hates. You know, every band has an album that they say, "Oh God, what a piece of crap."
Mm-hmm.
That is mine, but I know that people don't hear it that way. They can't tell that stuff. For me, I want to be able to enjoy those songs, and I'm not trying to replace the disaster, but I'm also not a punk rock sense kind of a person. I don't play punk rock. I don't have a punk rock mentality. I might go a few days without taking a shower or something like that, but I'm a perfectionist in that I like overproduction. I like to do 11 takes of something. I don't, in fact, I just did a project with a friend where it was a quick thing. We almost recorded it live. And I'm like, I kind of want to go in there and like fix things. It's like, that's the opposite, the antithesis of what this project is about. So yeah, I'm not a live album kind of guy. I'm not a live recording kind of person. I like the studio. I like to experiment. I like to re-record things. I like to get takes better. I like to remix. I like all that stuff. So that's what makes it that answer can be found situation more of a disaster, because I was sitting in that studio when the album was still alive, making all these, we were like making all these little changes and things that were going to make this thing great. And then it got erased. So it wasn't an album done in a week. I'll just tell you that much. And it wasn't cheap. It wasn't a cheap album by any stretch of the imagination.
I can understand how you wouldn't be able to even get, like, even over the years, just some of those things are just stapled with the songs. You can't get over it. But it does raise the question, because you are saying, I am reworking on these. Are you, you've got to be really excited then. Beyond excited for those songs specifically. You know what I mean? Of course, like you were saying, to redo Sink Into the Underground or some of these other songs would be really nice. But that specifically has got to be like, this is prime. This was our, like the third album. You know what I mean? Like, this is some prime stuff here that you guys don't really even get the general concept. So it's got to be exciting knowing that it's like, this will come.
Yeah, and it'll be all the stuff that I'm happy. The takes that I'm happy with are going to end up on these songs and more. We wasn't my decision, but we said let's just do guitars, strict bass, and drums, and that's not what I am. That's pretty much what that album is. It's got like some guitar synth to it maybe, and some we worked a lot with an EBO on there, but I thought that it could have used more atmosphere. It could have used more of
more of that CKY ear candy that you hear from some of the other albums.
And it's missing. And I'm sure that anything that we did put on there probably got erased anyway, and we forgot about it. So I think those songs have a lot more potential than what happened. So.
Well, even if some of the stuff went to the wayside, it's still going through your filter. So watching you, I know you've retired riffs and brought them back over time. Once you actually get into that and you put the microscope down, I can only imagine how much actually comes back to you in the moment to be like, oh shit, I remember how to play this, or like, oh wait, I did have another version,
Most of it's in here. I haven't even had to refer to the album that much. Those songs are still in my head. I can remember how we did them and how they should have been. And I refer back to the album to the way certain words are said, but I don't have to listen to the album to say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. There's none of that. It's all still in here.
Nice.
So, and it's a challenge as well. It's a physical challenge. Can I still belt it out like that? Yes, I found that I can. So these versions are going to be better. And
well, your voice on the new cover sounds great. The vocals, just all in all, the layering, everything sounds really good. It's got that Deron sound just baked into it. So I don't think you've lost anything. I think you're still more than fine in putting that time into something that's as polished as that. If the same kind of workflow goes for any of those songs, I wouldn't expect anything different. And
we did a version of Lionel Richie's what is it?
Wait, is this online? Like right now, or no, not yet?
No. It was requested by somebody, and they kept it to themselves.
Oh,
But
which song?
All Night Long by Lionel Richie, and I really dig it. I really like it. And he's like, no, this is for me. This is mine. I'm like, that's your right, you know? And I'm not sure that I would want people to hear. It sounds like the song, but it sounds like our version of it. It's got riffs. It's got, you know, it sounds heavier and it sounds like us. But it's definitely a very strange song for us to cover, but it turned out good. But, you know, I mean, there's so much stuff recorded that you would never think that we would do and stuff that you would think that we would do. And it's just, you know, it's can't put it on vinyl right now. Can't put it on, you know, it's just got to wait. It's got to sit and wait.
Yeah. Well, we obviously know that the people who commission these songs, well, I should say first, I see a lot of bands commissioning a lot of things. One of my, a band I really like just commissioned like a custom guitar in their, you know, GoFundMe campaign or whatever it is. But for you guys to do custom songs, full-blown songs for people, I think that's a really cool thing. And to have them pick the cover too is just an extra avenue of coolness there. I have to think that whoever did purchase those are super fans, so they're probably going to be watching this. So if people want to see the Lionel Richie song or want to hear it, just put it in the comments. Maybe we can convince him to put it out one of these days, because I would love to hear your take on that. That would be really cool. But can understand.
There's some I don't even remember. There's some I don't remember that are even more bizarre than that. That are, you know. And some people gave us songs they wrote and said, "Could you make this a better song?" And we did that for somebody. And I mean, just that's the future of this business is to be closer to your fans. They support you, you know, with their ideas. They support you in a financial way. They help get you the equipment. They help you out, and that's what is going on right now. And it's a lot of people aren't picking up on that. A lot of bands aren't picking up on that, and I just don't understand that. It's just always been the way. We've always been very fan-oriented, but now more than ever, it's just so obvious to me, but it doesn't seem to click in with other artists.
I think they'll find out the hard way. You know what I mean? It will happen. Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that that's where it's connected to. But I think that their mindset is probably geared on an older business model, which embodies fans and embodies these things, but it's a little bit different from a DIY approach, or if I can loosely use it, like a punk rock approach, something a little bit more guerrilla, something a little bit straightforward, straight and direct, and knowing that you don't need to go through the normal channels. The first thing I want to touch on, which is the most asked question by the internet, and I think it's fitting because I think you were mentioning kind of some dancing around it. The question was, as I lose my place here, where the hell am I?
No worries.
When is Synergy Restored coming out? That and I think you've already answered it, but that was like the number one answer, is people just like, you know, we've seen other music, what's the deal? And you've pretty much laid it out, waiting on vinyl, waiting on label, just playing the game and just waiting. Yeah.
We've been working on it since 2018. Isn't that funny? We did Campaign and Synergy at roughly the same time and picked the songs that were perfect for Campaign and the songs that are perfect for Synergy Restored. I was of a record plant that is 30 minutes away from me in Canoga Park, had been open for 82 years, called Rainbow Records with no W, RAINBO Records. They'd been in business. They had done Beatles records, okay? They closed the day after I went to pick up the Campaign vinyl. They were my go-to factory. And I was pretty in with some of the people that worked there, so even if there was an 8-month delay and they were still open, I might have been able to go in and maybe butt in front of some of the major label releases, you know, that need to come out in 6 months or whatever. They closed down. And they actually had gotten my order wrong, because I didn't want to clear. I did black and clear vinyl. I didn't want clear vinyl. I wanted some like color in there and splatter and stuff, and they didn't do that. And what am I going to say? You know, they all didn't have a job the next day, so they didn't care whether they got it right or not. Then I wanted the record to the Campaign did really well for a self-release. You know, we didn't spend any money on ads. We didn't spend any money. It was all word of mouth, and it did really well when we were on tour. We were out for a month, and COVID happened. As soon as we got home, we had planned to go out to Europe. We had to cancel that. We had to cancel future plans for a second leg in America and Canada, and the whole country just died. And we're still sitting on the edge of that. Is everything back to normal or no? Well, you know, we're getting hints of this Delta thing now, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's going to be the Delta issue, and we're going to have to close everything up again. So after signing the deal with the record company, they wanted the album handed in, and we did photo shoot. Chris RAAB just finished a video for us that he sent me yesterday for this opening track, Vaudeville's Revenge. And we have everything ready. The photo sessions are done. Although when the album comes out, they might be a little bit dated. But this isn't just happening to us. This is happening to everyone.
Oh yeah, across
every band,
complete
you know,
industry. Yeah,
it's the industry. So there's nothing I can do to expedite this issue. There's nothing.
What you guys are doing is what you can do. Get extra video work done. You know what I'm saying? Do the stuff that you can beef it up, and you're playing the game. So for anyone that's out there that's waiting, at least they know that the music's recorded, and they know that more stuff is coming with it, and they got to understand to be patient, because there is some strategy to this. So just putting it out, you know, this isn't your first rodeo, and you want to be smart about these things. I think people kind of lose sight of that because they're just like, I want. So it makes
right. And I understand that. I understand that. But I've been on that. I'm still on that end of things when an album I know is done by an artist, or if a band hasn't worked on an album, I'm like, where is new music? Where is this stuff? But yes, there is a strategy to it. Like you said, it's a business, and to just put it out and let, you know, the potential of more audience attraction and to satiate the diehards would be a really bad thing for the band and a bad thing for the album, and then ultimately a bad thing for everybody, because it's not going to let us get momentum back that everybody lost.
Well, I think you're doing great, because you're like releasing singles, you're doing stuff in the meantime, you're keeping the fan base happy. I think the plan of action is fucking great. So that's really cool, and thank you for addressing that. I bet you do get that question a lot, and a lot of people came forward with that to ask. So hopefully they can understand, like, you know, there's much more moving parts that go along with this. I'm a huge collector. I got a whole bunch of crap around here. This is a lot of my music stuff, but my whole rest of my room is full of a bunch of crap. And I know that you are a huge collector. Your record collection is notable. It's fucking humongous. I also know that horror movies are a huge thing for you, not only starring in them, but collecting them and just being a fan of horror movies over time. Are there other collections that you have that maybe people don't know about?
Oh God, probably. Yeah, definitely. Garbage Pail Kid stickers.
Nice.
And I have, it's funny because the artist that did the cover of the Foreign Objects album, Galactic Prey, got hired by T.T.M.S.G.P to do Garbage Pail Kids, the new ones, and to redo the old ones, you know?
Nice.
And so he sent me a bunch of Garbage Pail Kids posters from T.T.M.S.G.P that he had printed out, and I was just like, wow. So I have those. I just recently discovered that I have a $1,500 Michael Jordan basketball card. Cards, bubblegum cards, I guess they would call them. T-shirts.
Band shirts, or are we talking like retro?
Band shirts.
Like what are we talking?
Band shirts from years and years ago that are, I can't even find some of them on eBay. You know, they're just original. Cassettes. In the garage, I have probably 2,000 cassettes that are still wrapped. There's a big market for that keeps growing. You know, people are looking for Kiss cassettes that are brand new, and I have them. I have a record store in my garage, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, it's a pretty well-known thing that you're a fan of that. digital media is really where you've sunk your teeth into over the years. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't. I have a lot of DVDs, but I don't really collect DVDs. I'm not like obsessive over the quality or the condition, or I'm not mint condition crazy about those. But or Blu-rays actually. But I have VHS tapes that have never been watched of really sought after stuff. I have a lot of VHS tapes, movie posters. I have a very expensive movie poster collection. I collect stuff from my career. I have the very first CKY sticker ever made. I have.
Yeah, you got to make a video of your office one of these days to show some of those time capsule things. That's got to be really cool stuff in the archives.
Yeah, I have done the vinyl collection, but a lot. What's funny about these collections is that they're not necessarily sorted. They're not. I collect, but I don't display. So a lot of these things are boxed up and hard to find. Like I was looking for a cassette that I didn't have a CD or vinyl version of to listen to, and I couldn't find it. So nothing's sorted. There's no alphabetical order in these things. It's just, and I used to collect figures, action figures.
What kind?
Still have a lot of. Well, I always loved He-Man, that show He-Man, and I preferred GoBots over Transformers because Transformers were too complicated, so I just went for the GoBots.
Nice.
And then later on, it became horror figures. Like the sideshow action figures that were Friday the 13th and Halloween. But I got rid of all those. I'd sold off all those because I lost interest and they were taking up way too much room. So I'm kind of out of the action figure game. My son is into the Godzilla action figure game. So
nice.
There's hundreds of Godzilla figures all over the house with no difference, not much of a difference between much of them.
Yeah, there's only a few. Do you think that the collection thing, where do you think that spawned from? Do you think it's because of the love of CD jackets and vinyl jackets and the love of that physical media that just pulled over to everything else? Or like, did you know someone that was into cataloging when you were younger? Or are you just a sucker for, that sweet smell of plastic? Like, can you originate that? Like where the obsession came from?
Well, part of it is like human nature, I think. It's kind of like squirrels collecting nuts for the winter that they're never even going to eat. I think that there's a human trait in a lot of people, some people, that like to collect, that want to gather things to display or to show others that they have what they have out of everything they could have and what they need. What they still need. I'm at a point where I don't know where else to go with my vinyl collection because there isn't anything I finally just last week got the last record I've been looking for. So right now I'm kind of just like over the record thing right now. I think that it's what you said. It's the colors. It's the having something that is out there for other people when it used to be out there for you too, and you now have it. Yeah. It's just an obsession. It's a form of obsession that's kind of taken on this incarnate where it's certain things that stem off of a human need but maybe back then would have been a food or maybe certain animals' bones. Like I killed that animal and I saved the bones. Check it out, I just think that's like why dogs bury bones, I guess. Same thing.
No, I hear you.
And the smells.
The smells.
Definitely an odor to collecting.
Yeah.
There's odors.
Throughout the years, you've released a bunch of different types of merchandise, from belt buckles to wall clocks to wallets to skate decks. I'm a person who's actually done a bunch of branding for my own music. I have like a monkey icon. I'll show some stuff on the screen that I've done. But I always loved that part of this job. Always loved it. I don't know where it comes from, but regardless, what is one item that you've always wanted to make, but you couldn't make it because of concept problems, prototype problems, overall costs.
Serial.
Cereal?
Yep.
Oh, so what? CKY brand O's or what? What was it?
We went pretty far with it, yeah. We got stopped because of the FDA and the expense.
Well,
Yeah.
what did the FDA say? Were you getting it from like Korea or something? And they're like, nah.
Well, we didn't get to the point where, okay, we got stopped by the FDA. We found out that there was going to be issues with stuff like that we weren't going to be able to afford.
Wow. That is awesome. What sort of idea comes first with you? Melody, lyric, rhythm pattern? And how does he then take those initial ideas and expand upon it?
There's a big spectrum there, but 99% of the time it is just fooling around and coming up with something. And then when I come up with a melody that I like, I try to think of, what does this make me feel? What do I feel when I hear this? And, a lot of people have, they talk about the soundtrack to your youth or the soundtrack to a specific thing. Like I said earlier, Leader of the Pack, when I hear that song now, I think about the trauma and me taking a bite out of that record. When I come up with riffs, I try to think, this melody puts me in a certain place. Where does it put me? Then it'll hit me a kind of vibe. Then from that vibe, I'll come up with a title and then what to write about. The lyrics come much later. Sometimes even in the studio.
Sometimes they're last. Gotcha.
They're last seconds before they get recorded sometimes.
Tell me something great. It's the name of the show. So I always ask somebody, tell me something great, man.
Tell you something great?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Tell me something great.
You want me to tell you something great?
Tell me something great, man.
I am not even, this is great for me. And hopefully it's great for some people out there. Regardless of what I feel like, what I'm going through, I am never going to stop doing this as long as I live. So that makes me feel great.
This is a perfect segue. Why do you do this?
Because it's how do you sum that up? Because I relate to it beyond the point of anyone's imagination or understanding.
What does success mean to Deron Miller?
Survival.
Are you mainly using the DR3 or the LK27? I think the difference is one's a baritone and one's not. All right.
The ones that sound good.
The maple tan one or the black one? Which one do you think you play more? The black?
Black. Yeah.
Do you plan to do another acoustic album?
Yes. I plan to do a follow-up to everything I've ever done.
Do you think that the acoustic album will be in the same vein of the other one with acoustified songs, or do you think that the next endeavor will be new material you on acoustic?
Well, honestly, so many songs were recorded for acoustified that I have enough to put out another album.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I don't really want to touch, like for instance, I did a cover off of Gene Simmons' 1978 solo album. I did a version of See You Tonight that was up on YouTube, and he had it taken down. So once he took that down, I no longer have a copy of it. Since that was the only copy that I had. So I would like to do that song again. I'd like to do more covers on the second acoustic record. I'd like to do some new stuff. I wasn't really happy with the vocals on acoustified. They're passable, but I think there's things that I hear maybe that other people don't hear that I would like to have done better, but it's just where I was at that time.
Recently, you announced that you will be doing a second World Under Blood album to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the release of the first album, Tactical. How is that moving along? I know that the post just said that you just announced that it's gonna happen. Is it just baby steps right now, or is it? Are
baby
you in
steps?
It?
We got together and we rehearsed. we weren't quite ready for rehearsal. It was kind of like, do you want to give this a shot? Me and Tim Young, who's a really good friend of mine, we spend a lot of time now just hanging out and shooting the shit instead of professionally creating, because we've gotten to know each other since then. It was when we first met, it was all about doing this World Under Blood, and then we got to know each other. So it's more a friendship than it is collaboration. But to commemorate a 10th anniversary, I'm going to go ahead and do the safe thing and say maybe 15th anniversary. So just probably much before that.
All right.
Just to save my own ass, I'm going to say 15.
Okay. I heard you speak recently about your want to do more and more acting. Do you have an agent at this time? And are you currently going out for any sort of roles or doing any auditions, sending in tapes from your house because of COVID? Or are you just, it's on the back burner for right now?
Well, it's on the back burner. I had an agent, believe it or not, from CAA, which is like the highest theatrical agency. But the problem with who I had, she was assigned to give musicians that were under CAA booking agency roles for only musicians. So any role that she would have gotten me, I would have had to play a musician.
Yeah, the guitar player.
People say that musicians always say they can act, and then they find out that they can't. So anytime that I was so close to being the bass player in that movie about Johnny, can't think of his last name. Walk the Line was the name of the movie. I remember reading for it. The casting director loved me. It became up to me and like one other person. Then he went with the other guy because he looked more 70s than I did.
Well, that's one hell of a role to play a musician in, but most musician roles aren't that meaty.
Great. No, I don't want to be a rock star in a movie. I want to be something against that. I want to do stuff that isn't that person. So I don't have an agent. I'm not really looking for one. I think that when I do get serious about acting, it's going to be something that I'm going to end up doing all the jobs. So, and I have people that want to do that with me, where I create my own thing. It's very difficult to work for a director because of how long you have to. It's like a hurry up and wait kind of thing, and I get very impatient, and I don't have that going. So if it was something that I really wanted to do, I would definitely get a very professional mindset to it. But I think that if I ever do a major role, it's going to be something that me and a couple other people create.
If you could jump into any type of genre of film, if you had your pick of a project, like I want to do a Western, like is there something that screams to you more than you've done in your past, or screams to you that you've never done before that really pulls you? Or are you just attracted to, I just want to try to do something else. I want to play make-believe in a different role than what I do, and I want to just try this, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want to be the main star of anything. I wouldn't want to do like anything I wouldn't want to watch. So comedy and horror probably be what I would go for. My favorite comedians are like Ricky Gervais and Chris Lilly and Christopher Guest, although he's kind of moved on from the stuff he used to do that I like. But yeah, just something that I don't like mainstream comedy, you know. I don't like, oh man, we got so wasted last night, we can't find the car, you know. Haha, that's not funny to me. I like stuff
Something
that's a little
darker,
darker, deeper, you know, maybe like a little offensive here and there, and that's why I like Chris Lilly and Ricky Gervais. But Ricky Gervais isn't really around anymore because he did offend a lot of people. So that's what's so boring about Hollywood, is that you're not allowed to be dangerous or cutting edge or different. You know, just look good and show up on time and do what you're told.
Yeah, the level of people being scared and political correctness has definitely gone to insane lengths.
And
Okay.
it's just all fake. It's all fake anyway.
Oh yeah, everyone's trying to put on some fake bullshit. I mean, I moved out to, as I was mentioning to you, I got a horrible back problem. I moved out here, and the amount of people asking me, because I do music for a living, you know, are you going to LA? And my initial response is like, have you ever been there? Like, I'm okay with the urine smell of a major city and the homeless and the fucking, like, the level of entitlement. And it's just a gross fucking place. And that's where I live, so I can kind of do my own thing. But yeah, the industry is gross, to say the least.
Yeah, and New York City is a mirror of that. New York City's been gross for years. I mean, I remember taking meetings in New York City even 20 years ago and being like, this place is filthy. You know, but that's where all the things happen.
It's weird that they can all live in that same kind of world, or if it's dichotomy or whatever.
Everybody wants to be there, and wherever there's a lot of people, there's a lot of mess.
Okay, CKY questions. I got 3 of them, pretty basic. The first one is, looking back and not speaking to popularity or financial gain, could you pick your top favorite CKY songs that you've written? And I know you said earlier that Volume 1, you're like, that's where it's at. But even better, what are your top 5 least favorite songs?
Do you want to know least favorite, not favorite?
Either one.
I'll do...
maybe 1 of each? 2 of each? Who knows?
My favorite 2 would have to be A Number One Roller Rager and probably another Carver City song. I don't have them in front of me, so I like all the Carver City songs a lot. I think they turned out really good, but you just can't hear the guitar riffs. I think that's a huge problem. But when I hear them in my head, I'm really happy with the writing on that album. Least favorite would have to be maybe My Promiscuous Daughter or Knee Deep or something. Volume 1's.
I know what you're saying, though, because lyrically those songs are a little bit more simplistic and repetitive, opposed to some of your other songs that are literally full-blown stories, or, you know, a little bit, they have, you know, verse, chorus, A-B kind of thing going on. Those other ones are more just a theme and the kind of right to the end, you know?
But Volume 1, I think, is a brilliant record. I just think that it's not solid from front to back. It has brilliant moments.
Where is your Parker guitar these days?
Well, I had at one point 18, and I sold them all. They took up too much room, so I had 1 left.
Does that one? Is that one just like in your office? I can't believe you own 18 of them. You're insane.
It's just a display. Yeah, I mean, I went through. What happened was I was kind of taking them for a ride because they knew that I was part of the company, but they kept changing partner company or parent companies because they were fighting very hard to survive. And literally every 2 months, I'd be meeting a new artist relations guy, and I'd say, you know, I need new guitars. And then he would send 2 or 3, and then he'd get fired or laid off, and then the next guy would come in, and I'm like, I need 2 guitars. Wow. So this was happening a lot, and I ended up with all these guitars, and like I said, I don't like guitars, so they were taking up a lot of room. I didn't need to play. It wasn't like I had a favorite, or that one sounds like this, I need to keep that. That one sounds like that, I need to keep that. So anything that takes up room, too much room that I'm not really obsessed with keeping, I try to sell off.
Is the one that you're keeping in the archives, do you remember if that one holds any specific, was that from any specific shows, or was it just one of the guitars you just kept one?
It's got my wife's face. It has my wife's face on it. It has an Angela face on it.
Oh, nice.
It was custom made, yeah.
Very cool.
It needs some repairs.
Well, I mean, if it's a showpiece anyway, who cares? But I mean, I'm glad to hear that that's still, you know, you still hung on to one of those. That's awesome. The CKY crew has been through its fair shares of highs and lows, from deaths to falling out, from sobriety to full-blown substance abuse problems. After all this time, are you able to look back and still hold on to fond memories, or is it bittersweet, or no, like you still can reflect and be like, that's some good shit. I had some good fucking times.
Hell yeah. I mean, the it was like 80% amazing and 20% not. And the 20% was really not good. But the 80%, I mean, so much happened in that decade of time that, Chris Rapp will bring something up and I'll be like, I totally forgot about that. And these are things that a normal person would not forget. And there was just so many crazy things that happened that it became normal for this stuff to be outrageous. So my recollection of things, whether I was under the influence of something, which we all were, I mean, it's affected all of our memories. I mean, so yeah, I mean, just I sometimes I can't reflect on all the best things because I can't remember them. So I kind of have to rely on someone else in there to remind me, like Rake. I talked to him a week ago on a podcast that we do every Sunday, and he reminded me of a lot of stuff. And I'm just like, wow. So, yeah, I mean, of course, there's a lot of fun, crazy, close call moments where we could have been in jail, but we ended up laughing. Yeah. So
that's really good, though. That's good to hear that. And you got to be lucky that so much of it is fucking documented. I mean, from live events to people on the bus to so much stuff that you can go back and see it. And I'm glad that it's not just
and there's a lot of footage. There's a lot of private footage that all of us have that has never been seen because either it's too incriminating or somebody else doesn't want it to come out. So,
but at least you can, it's still enjoy that, man. That's good shit. 96 Bitter Beings question. We're going to ask the obvious one that you've probably gotten before, but why did you land on that name? And I know that can come off as saying, is coming off as like a bad thing.
I get it.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I like the name. I'm just curious why that name because of the song title. You know what I mean? Or is it because of the song title?
It's definitely because of the song title. As a lot of people know, I named the band after a movie that didn't exist. Band names are very difficult because there's so many bad ones out there, and a lot of band names I don't feel like are strong enough to be band names or even song titles. I mean, there's so many recycled song titles out there. I don't understand why people recycle song titles. If you wouldn't be able to come up with a song called Master of Puppets, because obviously there's a Metallica song called Master of Puppets, but you can come up with a song called Dark Hide or Hiding Myself or Dark Thoughts, and you wouldn't be infringing on something that's already known. So there's like, where is the line between a song title that one band owns and a song title that is repeated constantly? I mean, how many songs are called Black? There's so many songs called Black.
Dude, one of the singles off my last CD was called Burn. I didn't even think about it until then I went online and I'm just like, oh God. And it was already too late, so I'm just like, whatever. But you're absolutely right. And a name like 96 Bitter Beings has definitely got a familiar and striking name to it, so I get it.
Striking, it's memorable, it's a movie, it could be a movie. Plus 96 is kind of a lucky number for me. I see it a lot. When I was thinking, what should I name this band? My grandmother turned 96. So, okay, the day I was thinking about, it was September 1st, about 5 years ago. I'm like, what should be the name of this band? 96 birthday came up. It shows up a lot. I was 20 in 1996, and there was a lot going on. So CKY started to gain momentum when I was 20. That was a good year. It just comes up a lot. And
interesting,
which probably influenced the song title. Why number 96? Just I like the number 96. 9 is frontwards, 6 is backwards. Some people think 69 is a funny joke. It's back to back. It's like the opposite of a 69.
It's a yin yang. It's an infinite symbol. It definitely holds the yin and yang, or the both sides of the coin kind of thing. So imagery wise, it definitely screams, no doubt about it.
So I just took the quite out, and we had our band name. It's the song that's consistently put food on the table, so people know it. It's a way to keep the past going in a tasteful way for me.
No, that makes sense. Before we did this, I messaged you because I saw a riff online, and this is the first time I've seen this too. The riff you put up recently was the CKY 4 jam riff, which for people who don't know, it's like mega slide riff, total Deron Miller, old school CKY. But again, this isn't the first old school riff that I've seen you just jam with and kind of bring out that hasn't been used. I wrote this down. I feel that you are CKY as many people feel the exact same way. We could sit and argue that point, but I think for anyone who does their homework, they're going to agree. With this being said, you've chose the name 96 Bitter Beings, and the fact that you're now playing older material and thinking about redoing some of the songs, it raises the question of, will we see a volume 3 from the new band embodying some of these old, never-before-seen riffs? Like, will that anthology still continue, or do you think because Volume 2, you know what I mean? Like, since
Are
that
you
chapter
talking
was
about,
done, do you think you
like,
would be done using that, or do you think 96 Bitter Beings would actually put out an album called Volume 3 with those riffs kind of thing?
No.
No? Okay.
Because it wasn't my idea. I would never choose the word volume in a title. I never did. Volume 2 was an album that was compiled completely without me knowing. And it was just a compilation of stuff that was in the soundtracks to the videos. And Volume 1 and Volume 2 were released at primarily at the same time. Now, obviously, Volume 1 was 100,000 times more successful than Volume 2. So to do a Volume 3 would not only be copying a Slipknot title, but it would also be, Greatest Hits Volume 3. Shouldn't be the title of an original album. Their first CKY album was called just simply CKY, and then it had its controversies through Volcom Entertainment and ended up with the title Volume 1 because the president of Volcom didn't like what our band acronym stood for. So we were Can't Kill Yourself to start with no album title, and then we said, well, can we use CKY? And he's like, no. So there's a couple copies of that album where our band name was Camp. It was insane. So those were Volume 1 is essentially a self-titled album, and Volume 2 was just a fun project that we all did. I'm not connected anyway emotionally or spiritually to the idea of a volume of anything.
Gotcha. So you think that if any of those old riffs come to fruition, they're going to be something completely different. They're going to be their own thing. Yeah.
And a lot of those songs on Volume 2 are mistaken as CKY songs, but they're not. They're Foreign Object songs. Some of them are
whoa.
covers.
So, people will like this. So what would you call Shippensburg then?
An outtake from Volume 1.
Ooh, okay. Oh, yeah. Wait, no, now that you say that, I think I remember that, because didn't you cut vinyl at one time with that song back on the track?
I put it back in. It was supposed to come before To All of You. But we just felt it was too alternative rock sounding. And it is. I mean, it's sounds a lot like bands from that era, like Presidents of the United States and Foo Fighters and stuff like that. It just didn't go with what we were trying to do. We were trying to be the opposite of mainstream stuff after chasing mainstream stuff for so long.
I think fans would disagree with you. I mean, there's probably a lot of fans that do agree, but so many people love that track. I know,
yeah.
I don't know.
It was just the time. It was like 1997 when that song was completed, and at that time, it felt like that. But now it doesn't, because a lot of people don't remember that specific sound related to that specific time. Now it's just a rock song, and it sounds like CKY, but at the time we felt it was too close to what was dying out at that point. It just didn't belong on the album.
I know you spoke about it before briefly. You mentioned it a few times with working with RAAB, with working on one of the CDs off the new Synergy album. How was
Videos.
working? Or yeah, the videos. How was working with RAAB again? Like, how was that whole? How was the whole set? I mean, from the pictures you posted, it looked like you guys had a blast, and it looks like you had a lot of fun with the actress that was in it. But I was just curious if you could elaborate on, you know, how that was.
It was cool because we had a budget and he put together an amazing production of people that he was working on with he was working on Jackass Forever and then moved on to another project. And then he brought a lot of those people into the vaudeville video, and he did it in a short amount of time. And he's very professional, and he works really hard at wanting to be behind the camera and getting really good at that. And it's been really cool to watch him go from prankster, wasted dude
RAAB to
yeah. And I've known him since he was 13. So he was always like prankster to getting his shit together and finally doing something professional that he can work towards doing in the future instead of, you know, being that character.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone and their mother knows him for just playing with shit. But it's really great to see, like, his podcast is really great. I tuned into more episodes outside of the ones that you did, and I've seen some of his video work, and I was just like, dude, like, this guy, even if he was working as, like, a DP or something, like, he's got an eye for framing. He's got an eye for a lot of this, and, yeah, I'm waiting to see the video because, like you said, he pulled in some extra people there, and you could see that there was a lot of people on set, so I'm interested to see how that'll come through. Not to say that the past videos haven't been good or anything, but it looks like this one actually is going to be really good. So, you know,
it was the first video that I've ever done that was catered. So, and I saw a rough cut of it, and it just felt like a real thing, you know,
nice.
And it turned out really, really good, and I've been watching it a lot, and it really, really fits the song, the vibe of the song, and it just turned out awesome. And I was really happy because we had agreed initially to co-direct, and I just let him go run with his thing because it was what he wanted was more important to him than any kind of different change that would be important to me. So it was all him. He just chased it and nailed it. So
nice. Well, we know that things are kind of up in the air, but if that video is out, this will be the time that I link it around, and hopefully people will go and check it out. So
we're going to try to roll it out as a single, because now the new format is to roll out maybe 3 singles before an album because of the delay of the product. So now, this video is probably going to be released a lot more time before the album.
Nice.
So
that's cool, though. That would be a nice segue, and like, you know, we were saying before, a little kind of chomps on it and something to build up to something that people have been waiting for will be a really nice surprise. You know what I mean? That they'll just be happy to hear songs that are coming out for it. So they're like, it exists, it's here, you know. All right, these are all from the internet. First one, who did you mean by Bam's negative influence from PA in a recent interview with Matty J?
Chad. Next.
Have you cut any butts recently?
Never. Next.
What?
Maybe my own by accident. It's a that video clip is great because it shows a great example of how good of friends Bam and I were. We were best friends. So that video captures the zaniness and the laughing about things that are so stupid, which is our sense of humor. And not a lot of people can relate to that. And a lot of people find that video very strange and humorous because it's so ridiculous. So yeah, I can see, but yeah, I mean, when somebody says, how many butts am I going to have to cut? I know that that's something that's out there and people know about. But for me, I think it's great because people can see what no longer exists. And it's 2 people that are young and having a lot of fun trying to figure out where we're all going to end up.
What happens first? Deron playing with Chad again, or Rake taking a mustard bath?
The mustard bath. Yeah.
I had a lot of questions revolving around that, but that was the best worded one. So I was like, we'll just leave it at that. I think that's the best.
I could probably it probably would be easier since I've just recently caught back up with Rake and we're speaking again. We never were not speaking. We just lost touch with each other, and we finally reconnected. And I think it would be much easier for me to get Rake to take a mustard bath than it would be to convince Chad or me to play together again. So.
That's a bold statement, friend, but I think that stands on its own 2 feet. That's hilarious. Have you had any bad experiences meeting musicians you look up to?
Gene Simmons was kind of mean in makeup.
That seems to be the consensus with him. He's kind of a prick, so people say.
Yeah, he's a prick, but it didn't take me off guard or surprise me. But I wouldn't even say that was a negative experience, but it's probably the closest to it because everybody else that I've met has been really cool that I wanted to meet.
That's really cool. That usually doesn't work out that way. So that like
the biggest bands, the bands that are the biggest dicks are the ones that don't succeed. You never hear about them.
Yeah.
Weird.
Working hard, there's a lot of things that get you into this business, but being an asshole will get you out of this business. And working well with others is good. And people get labeled hard to work with, but they can still work with people. But it's pretty obvious that you don't have to be a movie star to be a douchebag. You don't have to be a rock star to be a douchebag. You're a douchebag. That's gonna last. People will see it. There's no hiding that, you know what I mean?
Right. And obviously, Robert De Niro can be a dick and Mick Jagger can be a dick. But up-and-comers, so many people want to be movie stars and so many people want to be music stars that they're going to take whoever is easier to work with and perhaps who won't complain when people steal from them. So, I mean, now there's so much competition that to be a star that instead of going by talent, they'll just grab people that are saying, look, I'll work for 10% of my money. Just make me a star. I mean, that's like a Justin Bieber thing. They grab people that are just gonna do what they're told.
I mean, it's the same version of getting your CD into like Best Buy. I mean, bands making $3 off a $24 CD, but they're just paying to basically have the distribution. It's just another form of that bullshit, but it's still bullshit at the end of the day,
The amount of people that it takes to make a Justin Bieber happen, everybody's on a payroll. Guess where that money's coming from? So, a Justin Bieber thing is like $1 billion business, but making one of that business makes you wealthy, but eventually you're going to be like, whoa, I made a lot of people rich and they're wearing me out. And that's why they become alcoholics and they don't know who their friends are and they have no social skills. They have no social life. They're just constantly working and they end up shaving their head like Britney Spears.
Or you just have people who burn out. How many vocalists get vocal polyps? They can't sing. They just can't do the job because they get into the machine and they're just like, this is way more than I ever fucking anticipated, And
they're at the end of the day, they're human beings, and those kinds of stars get more hate than anybody else. So they have to deal with that. They have to deal with constantly being attacked for being nothing, for not having talent, for not and jealousy and all that stuff. And it's just, the creative spark that maybe started it is gone.
Yeah, it definitely becomes something else. But I can understand why there's so many egotistical sociopaths who work there because they don't care about that and they just blinders on and go, What the events? These people can't spell on the internet, dude. What are the events that led up to your first exit from CKY at the Vermont show in 2006? Wow, that is oddly specific. And
it's oddly a specific answer. I remember it plain as day. What happened was we went out on tour and we had a very small road crew on that particular tour. Now, being that I'm up at the mic with guitar and vocals, pretty much carrying the sound, the live sound, you would think that the guitar tech, who was Mark Hanna at the time, would notice if I was having trouble. Now we were well into a song and my guitar string broke. And I was still singing. I was still trying to keep it together. I was still trying to put the show on. And I look over and there's Mark Hanna staring at Chad, like waiting for something to go wrong. And I'm just like, hello.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's any video of it, you'll probably see me like, hello, trying to get his attention on stage, and still was just locked on, I better not screw up for Chad or I'm gonna get so much heat if I don't pay attention to Chad.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? I need somebody. I'm paying him. We're all paying these people. I'm sitting here crapping the bed and I don't have the support because somebody else that probably isn't even being heard live in the mix is getting, taken care of. And at that point I was just like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck it. And
no,
that
I
was
mean,
that.
you can't. When emergencies happen, you need reliable stagehands. You don't need to second guess that shit.
It was just yeah. I mean, I never really had my own tech. We always shared a tech, and there were just too many situations where all the attention was on Chad, who didn't really. It wasn't about him playing the riffs well. He never really played our songs really well, but he always demanded this tech to make him look important. Everybody wants to have an entourage or somebody that, people around you like, whoa, that guy's making sure he's okay. I'm usually in the middle hoping I can get through the show without needing a tech, which I had been doing for so long, but it got to the point where I'm like, okay, now the show is being sacrificed. I look like an idiot because the crowd can see that I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A very important string has broken, and the guitar tech that I'm also paying can't even look over to the left to see that I'm in this situation. And that might not be a justifiable answer now, but it was then when I was fed up with it. And it just made me so angry.
No, I think it's
it wasn't necessarily an alcohol thing. It wasn't like a drunken decision. It was, fuck this. This is like why do the show if I can't do it right? Then, and that's how I felt. Now, of course, I know there was better ways to handle that. If I had been in a more controllable state of anger, I wouldn't have done that. But it had just, people can smack a dog so many times before it bites, and that was just what happened.
Yeah, you can't deal with that shit constantly. You and I are on way too different levels as far as career-wise, but I've done tech work for bands and stagehand work for bands and had crucial moments of, click, the click in the drummer's ear going off. He drops it, the batteries fall out, stuff like that. Like, if you're not on top of your shit, even on a lower level, I mean, your expectations for where you're at and what you're paying for, like, is completely justified. And I can understand being like, what the fuck is going on when it happens time and time again. That's totally
and what I should have done and would have been more entertaining, I should have put my guitar down and just gone over and punched him in the face.
You mentioned earlier about tours. You had a tour planned for the UK, but everything kind of went to the wayside. The world is still in a weird place, and there's still countries that don't even know if they're open, and now America's going back and forth and blah, blah, blah. As of right now, which is August 3rd, do you have it in the books to head back to UK yet, or is it still just waiting game?
Our agency knows a lot better about where booking shows are at right now. A lot of bands, there's so many different theories. Everybody wants to get out there, and if touring starts at the same time, everybody's going to be out there, and it'll be hard to pick who to go see.
Mm-hmm.
There won't be enough shows because everything will be booked. Every band will be booked. So bands are worried about that. Bands are worried about going out all at the same time, and then people having to pick.
Yeah.
The oversaturation of live bands once everything is like, okay, it's open. Plus, I don't want to play a show where people are going to have masks on. The booking agencies are being asked a lot right now from bands of what's going on. The clubs, a lot have closed. since the tour. There's just so many things. I've been getting a little bits and pieces of information from our booking agent, but there's a lot of stuff where people are jumping the gun and booking shows for this year that might not happen.
Yeah.
And there's some scams going out there where festivals are booking these dates, selling tickets, and then postponing them and not refunding people.
Yeah, for an unforeseeable date, they don't know when it's coming back too, which is really disingenuous in itself. Thanks, Live Nation, which I think they're one of those, but nevertheless.
Yeah, and as long as a show is postponed and not canceled, you don't have to refund somebody's money. So it's just so fucking shady right now, and it's just, everybody's just screaming and it's just depressing. It's a nightmare.
Well, it's understandable. You got to be smart. You got to be practical, and you're running your own business. So for the person who asked about UK, just stay tuned. I'm pretty sure the UK is still in a pretty big lockdown as it is. So obviously people,
whether or not they're going to let Americans in,
exactly. So that might just be on the back burner for a little bit until the world comes into play. And I think that's any of your UK fans or other fans over there can understand. How has your perception of California changed since moving near LA in 2001, or has it not changed at all?
It's changed in the idea of what's the word I'm looking for? Opportunity. When I first moved here, there was so many opportunities and so many goals to achieve, and that was what was fun. Plus, I had never really, the thought of leaving Pennsylvania, and living with a bunch of friends in an apartment, it was just crazy. It was crazy all the time, and it was a lot of fun. And there was a music business that was still going, and there was money coming in, and we were able to do things that afford that kind of lifestyle. And now it's just like my home. It's a different situation. I have a family here, and I could never go back east. So California, I love California. It sucks what's going on right now, but I'd rather deal with what's going on here than being bored and lonely in Arkansas or something.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, and you're in, for lack of description, in Southern California, right?
Southern California, right near Magic Mountain, which I go 2 or 3 times a week. So
nice.
Just to have an amusement park,
I lived in Santa Clarita for a little bit. That's actually a nice little place around there. It's actually not too bad. It's far enough away from LA, but close enough that you can drive, and it's got a lot of cool shit around there.
I've always wanted to live near an amusement park, so I got that.
That's not too bad. That Six Flags is pretty good. I lived. I'm
a roller coaster nut. I'm obsessed.
I used to live. The whole 30 years of my existence near Chicago. So we were by Six Flags Great America. That's where a lot of my adolescence was spent, and probably why my back is broken, being in the shockwave all the time, freaking out and whatnot, Okay, top 5 movies you've seen lately.
Halloween 2018. I'm looking forward to Halloween Kills. Other than that, movies have been pretty damn dry lately. Nothing new. Nothing new.
Will you ever do a room tour in your house?
I have, I think. But maybe it's a good idea.
I'm not sure if they were referring to more of a collection, maybe more of the gear side of things, or what they were. But I think people want to see more of your junk, is what it comes down to.
Right. I've done Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives where it's very obvious. You can see what I have in the background. I've done a vinyl. Me and RAAB did a vinyl video where I took out all the records and explained a lot of what I had and my favorites. I don't think we ever put it out because I thought it was kind of corny or something. I don't know what happened, but it never got released. But yeah, I mean, I would like to do that. It would be hard. I don't know why I'm thinking this. It would just be hard to get it out there that I'm going to do that to people that would be interested in that.
Well, I think a lot of people are just interested in what you're interested in, but I think a lot of people love vinyl. and you definitely have this vast metal vinyl collection that I think even if you broke it up to like subgenres or certain bands or something like that, I think people would get a kick out of it, even if it's just like
it'd be fun to do. It would be fun to do like a band, an episode,
Yeah, some sort of like, per week, here's the top 5 albums I took out from the year of 72 or something like that. I think
Right.
that could be cool, and I think your audience would like it too, because they probably know, I mean, Kiss is a huge one, and they know a lot of your influences, but you actually pulling out some of these rare B-sides and maybe reflecting on when you listened to them when you were younger might actually give them some insight into some of the influences that you bring into your music, which, I mean, a lot of your audience are guitar players, you know what I mean? So I would imagine that they would really get into that, I would like to know his take on how music is created and promoted nowadays compared to CKY's heyday.
There was a lot more money to go around back then for advertisements. It wasn't the band's responsibility. It was the record company's responsibility, and they spent a lot. But there was benefits and not disadvantage, and there were disadvantages to that. Now I think it's more word of mouth in conjunction with a record company, because a record company does still play a huge part. A lot of bands don't seem to think so, but they play a huge part in getting you seen in places where you necessarily wouldn't think. And word of mouth is my favorite because it doesn't cost money. Like I said, we put no money into ads or anything. My favorite fans are the ones that stumbled upon what I do and want to know more. A lot of the CKY fans back then were more about finding out about us from the videos or the BAM Association and stuff like that, which was fine because that makes up a large audience of people who are still here today. But it would be cool to have the record company, and along with booking agencies and other public relations people, get us in front of a new audience, So that would answer that.
For sure.
And it's important. It's still important.
What do you find to be the biggest barrier in creating music currently? I think your most recent thing is fighting depression, but
yeah.
I mean, other than that, you think that's the biggest thing?
Yes.
This next question, how has the pandemic influenced his goals as a musician? I think we kind of went over that, seeing that it just really sidelined the big release. But I mean, it just makes sense. It would be, I mean, I've seen bands try to argue that right now is the best time to put out music, when other bands be like, I can't logistically do it with the limitations that are going on. And I'm right there with you. It makes perfect sense.
It depends on who it is. It depends on who the band is.
Yeah,
I would like, the first album was different in that it was like, look, I'm back with a band that is not, which is just a connection of what I used to do, and in my opinion, an improved version of it. So it was like the debut thing, and we went on tour, and we sold so many copies on that tour. Now it would be ridiculous in my way of thinking to put out an album and not be on tour when it comes out. So the second album is different in that aspect. The introduction's already out of the way. Now you want to go to the next step. On a record label, we want our second album to, be more out there. We want to get more out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense, man. I think you've answered this one before on other videos, but what/where was the inspiration for using the Boss octave pedal that was ultimately the sound of so much of the band?
Well, I never used a lot of chords, and I think that single note riffs without an octave pedal sound really whiny, and it's hard to get a heavy sound. So with an octave pedal, your single notes on a guitar are automatically doubled, which gives them more bottom and more power. So since I don't fool around with a lot of chords, I don't like using chords. I use them when I have to, but I'm more of a single note song person, which I got from other bands. But it just worked. It was just something that happened. It was a lucky thing.
Nice. Yeah, definitely lucky because it was a perfect matching for some of the melodies that you do. And like you said, they are a little bit more noodly, but I mean, that
Mhm.
definitely made a sound. And a lot of people have screwed around with it, but you definitely took it to a whole new level, which is great. Um, how many hours a day would you play guitar as a young kid? Were you one of those guys that would play like you had lessons, you play an hour after school, or were you playing like 3 hours a day every day from the age of 15 to 21, just being a complete nerd about it? You know what I'm saying?
When I started to feel like I was getting good at it, probably averaged 3 to 4 hours a day. But I remember the summer of '91, it was 8 to 10 hours a day.
Just grinding, writing,
Yeah.
riffing, just everything.
Yeah. And if I never noticed the time going by. So that's when you know you're having a good time. If it's 10 hours and you look up and say, it's been 10 hours. Yeah.
Now,
Eight
is
to
this
10
all? Was this all the during the basement sessions and basically like through all those writing sessions of the early CKY days, or was that even earlier?
When I first moved to Westchester, I moved during the summer. So I didn't know anybody
Okay.
in where I lived and wouldn't meet people until school started in September. So that whole summer from May to early September was just me playing all day, every
That's
day.
that's badass. That is badass.
Mhm.
Will foreign objects ever be resurrected in some fashion?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's still a band. It's just Galactic Prey's been out for 5 years, and as soon as I'm always working on stuff. I always have something going on, even if it's not going to be materialized quickly. But yeah, there's going to be more foreign object stuff. There's two albums, two full lengths, and an EP. So this would be the third album with an EP, so fourth release. Yeah, I'm gonna do more.
Nice. Why did you intervene to stop Urban Outfitters from releasing IDR, An Answer Can Be Found, and Carver City on vinyl?
I didn't intervene. I had a problem with them making a deal with Urban Outfitters without telling me. But I tried to. Um, I wouldn't have approved of just an exclusive Urban Outfitters thing. And then all of a sudden, it's there, and nobody tells me. And legally, I own that album, so that just made it all the more confusing. And there was some legal shit where I'm just like, you can't just fucking do that. You gotta tell me. And then I tried to work with them and do a deal with Megaforce Records to do the first three albums on vinyl. And then they said, we don't want to do that just to be that way. But it only takes two of us out of the three of us to sign a contract. And Jess did sign the contract to allow Megaforce to license the albums. Then after Megaforce got the contract, paid us our advance, Jess backed out. So I was totally cooperative. I didn't want to do just exclusive Urban Outfitters. I wanted it to be in all stores. So I didn't intervene. I tried to take it to a better level, slap them on the wrist, say, you can't do this without telling me, and then try to come up with an agreement. But then when I came up with the agreement, it's just in their nature to just say, well, no, you did this. Well,
Yeah.
that's how that went. And it ended up angering Megaforce Records, but they still went ahead and did the acoustified album.
Well, that's badass. Yeah, that they still, you guys still got to be able to work together. But who went ahead and pushed the deal then? The label went ahead and just were they the ones that just went ahead and just signed away the music without even having the go ahead of the songwriter who owns 100% of the rights of the song?
I mean, that's the way they are. It's been.
Damn.
I could say that's more the way he is. He makes his own laws, or I don't know. I can't describe Chad. He's like one of the funniest, most interesting people I've ever met, but he can be a real baby sometimes. Yeah.
It's unfortunate, man.
Not to say exclusively, because when I'm around him, I find myself in a baby kind of way too, but I haven't been around him. So, like, for example, trying to do the vinyl with Megaforce, he stepped up and said, well, I don't want to. So that without any real reason, just to prevent it from happening. So
that's unnecessary in many ways. Jeez.
What can you do? I mean, like I said, there's a lot of stories.
Yeah. Well, again, at least you're surrounded around people that you feel you can sponge off well, and you definitely have a lot on the burner going on right now. So it's not like these things are weighing you down or stopping the train. You know what I mean? You're still chugging along. This was actually a question that I wrote myself because it's something that I struggle with. But in an interview you did with RAAB, you mentioned that you never really planned on being a singer. How did you... Is singing and screaming just all something that you taught yourself? Did you ever go to vocal lessons? Did you ever do anything fun like that? Or is it something that you're just like, well, I got to do it, fuck it, and you just jumped in and just started doing it?
Yeah, and it's funny because my ear got better quicker than my vocals did. So I started to, I would do vocals for something and then be like, I don't think that's very good. I can hear that's not very good, but I didn't really have anybody to tell me that it wasn't good. Because to them, it probably was good enough. But to me, I'd be like, so to this day, I'm still improving on singing. So that's another reason why I want to re-record these songs so that, I can be more happy with the performances of the vocal rather than, I think Carver City has amazing vocals, and there's no, as far as I know, those vocals were all done with no auto-tune, which makes that a really good record for me. But the answer can be found vocals are all auto-tuned because they were erased takes. They weren't takes we chose. And then Infiltrate has some bad vocals on it that just makes it part of that album. So I'm still improving as a singer. I'm hitting higher notes, I'm hitting lower notes. It's just, for some reason, it's easier for me now. And I'm able to take what I want to do in my brain and project it rather than what I want to do in my brain but can't quite get there, which is what I've gotten away with for 30 years.
Well, I mean, you followed your ear in many ways, so having your ear mature first before the actual muscle of your voice box actually matures is totally to be expected. But your voice has definitely matured over the years, but for a better way. And so it'll be interesting to see, even though, like you were saying, you were happy with Carver City, but that you were more active at that time too. So I think, your voice was getting a lot of work, but now we have time as well as your experience, as well as how much you'll get into the rehearsal mode, that it would be really interesting to see you revisit some of these songs with a more matured voice, but with the same kind of person still behind the wheel. It could be a really, really interesting thing. Also, if you're wanting to try to push those chops more, like you said, get lower in certain points or higher in certain points, it could actually bring a whole new flavor to some of those songs. That could be really cool.
Yeah, and the pitch is I'm where I'm at with pitch is where I want to be, but I want to push the boundaries of my limitations and get a little bit more aggressive where I want to be aggressive and get a little bit more soft when I want to be soft. So that's what's going on. I can nail pitch better than I can nail the vibe of the vocal. So I'm still working on it, still getting there.
Well, it's sounding good from my side of the pond, and that's just not me blowing smoke up your ass, because I'm definitely not the only person that feels that way. But, dude, we've been talking for like close to 2 hours. It is amazing that you would spend this time. That's pretty much all the questions that I had. Am I missing anything? Is there anything additional out there that you would like to mention, or anything else that I can edit into the video that we didn't cover that you want to plug? I mean, you've got your own merch store where you're constantly putting new items out, so we'll throw that out there. There's tons of albums out, so I'll throw all those down here. But any other stuff you'd like to throw out?
Just the whatever songs we have on YouTube. Obviously, the social medias. Follow us on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I'm not as active on Facebook, so I'm trying to get Facebook over to my Instagram. There's like 10,000 Facebook people. I'm trying to get them all over to the Instagram because it's not as I'm using a phone now, which I wasn't for years. So just to make people aware of, the social medias and just that stuff is happening. I'm working, under the circumstances. I'll be improving my way of thinking hopefully soon, and then things will get back on track. And there's no end in sight.
I can only say thank you once again for making the time. Hopefully you didn't nerd out too much. I'll keep you posted. I'll try to edit this down, and in the details I'll throw all kinds of links and stuff like that. Usually the timestamps are pretty good so people can navigate through it if they threw their questions out from the internet or something. So I'll try to make it as informative as I possibly can and try to get it out there. But again, thank you very much, man.
Thank you. You're probably one of the better interviewers that I've ever had, so I appreciate that.
Wow.
Not the same old questions, you want to know more about stuff. So that's cool. It was good talking to you.
Well, thanks, man. It's obvious, like I said, we have some parallels, whether they are good or bad, but it's my pleasure talking about it, and hopefully this won't be the last time. But thank you very much for the compliment. It means a lot. I did podcasting for a long time, but I stopped, and I had the itch to do it again.
You're good at it, so you're good at it. Keep with it.
Well, thanks, man. Again, I appreciate all the info. Hopefully people will tune into the new band and what you got going on, and we're all waiting to hear some of these new tunes, man. So thank you again, and I'll be in touch here soon. And man, thank you so much.
Couldn't have gone better, man. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right, man, I'll be in touch soon, and thanks again. Have a good night, man.
You too.
All right, adios.
Leave.
That's great.